Happy Saturday. Happy April Fool's Day. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center Live, the Saturday night live overnight edition. And happy WrestleMania night one. It's a surprisingly strong night one, even though I don't think that the event needs to be two nights. Each match, for the most part, I used, to deal with some customers and eat some food. But for the most part, even the matches that were, that I didn't think needed to be on the card out of WrestleMania were still pretty strong. So let's get to my sponsors. All right. Oh, first of all, as promised, one of my main sponsors, Sister Kim's Kitchen. And not only am I just going to throw up a logo and their menu, which the only thing that I have not gotten on this menu is the turkey burger. I've even had the veggie burger, and I'm a carnivore. The food is great, and you hear me talking about this place, which is right in my plaza downstairs, or you see me doing this, which is eating their food. And look at that. I earned these. All right, loaded fries with shrimp. Has the weight of a small child. So those will be sitting here for the entire show. I'll try my best not to be picking through those because that's kind of gross to be eating while I'm talking. And our other sponsor is Paramount Pictures and CBS Home Film. And they are promoting Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 1. I will be announcing my second winner tomorrow night on tomorrow night's overnight stream. I picked a winner for another Star Trek Strange New World Season 1 steelbook, which would be Paramount, so you don't have to worry about me losing it. So Star Trek Strange New World Season 1 is now on Blu-ray and limited edition Blu-ray steelbook. Experience every episode like never before with over 100 minutes of special features, including exclusive cast and crew interviews, a gag reel, deleted scenes, and more. Own this Emmy-nominated first season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds from CBS and Paramount Home Entertainment today. Limited edition 4K UHD steelbooks available for pre-order now. So I've already picked one winner, and that was that dude Vince. And I let him know. And there's another winner that I will announce tomorrow night's overnight stream. And then I have actually about two more winners that I'll probably spread out throughout the remaining episodes of Star Trek, not Star Trek Strange World, Star Trek Picard Season 3, which has been an epic season. Also sponsoring the show is us. The Sci-Fi Center presents Tromania. This is a trauma-centric event that will be happening the weekend of May 12th and will carry over to May 13th. This will include three, actually, even though this flyer says two, we've added a third one. Three Vegas premieres of three different trauma movies. Dolly Deadly Part 2, which I hope to have Heidi Moore, who's the director on that. She's local here in Las Vegas. I hope to have her on here pretty soon. Eating Miss Campbell, it'll be making its Vegas premiere, and hashtag Shakespeare's Shitstorm. Not only that, we have some other legendary films that we'll be doing through Choma, and Lloyd Kaufman himself will be here, free autographs, free pictures. That's Chomania, May 12th, Friday, May 12th and 13th. And last but not least, I might as well pimp myself while I'm here. The Sci-Fi Center, the one who's producing the show. You can come here for anything geek needs, comic book toys, posters, events. 900 Karen. Actually, they changed our street name. It's now 900 Liberace Avenue. I haven't changed that card yet. We are upstairs in the New Orleans Square inside the historic commercial center. You can reach me anytime, anywhere. The sci-fi-center.com. All of our social media is on there, or you can call 702-900-GEEK, 702-900-4335. All right, before I go any further, since it's WrestleMania Sunday, hold on real quick. Albert, go back to that question there, Stella. I just want to answer that real quick. Hey, William, which movie do you think will make more money at the box office, Guardians 3 or Deadpool? Guardians, you can take families to Guardians. A lot of people, even though they like Deadpool, they may not take their kids there. So you're not getting those multiple dollars when it comes to that. Deadpool's a pretty vulgar character. So whereas Guardians of the Galaxy, it's violence, but it's cartoonish violence. You can still bring a family to that. So I would give Guardians of the Galaxy has a slight edge on that. All right, since it is WrestleMania, it's Saturday. It doesn't even sound right. WrestleMania night one. I'm going to bring in my wrestling ring man. How you doing? Great, go God, Beth Vomit.
Hey, what's up, William? How are you?
I'm doing okay. Surprisingly solid night one.
Dude,
pay-per-view.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say it's probably in ring the best WrestleMania they've ever had.
Yeah. On match wise, yeah, that was pretty solid. I mean, even the Street Profits match, which I wasn't paying as much attention to, I was watching it. In it, what was it? What was the match? Oh, in the Austin Theory match, I watched that one. I thought that one was one of the weaker matches of the night, but it wasn't a bad match. The strongest match for me was I knew this was gonna be it. It was the Charlotte Flair Rhea Ripley match.
Yep, I'm 100% with you on that.
Yeah, that was my favorite match of the night.
I think the main event, when it comes to just the drama, was amazing and perfect. But I think the best match was at first I thought they were kind of having maybe a little bit of a tepid match at first, but then when they turned it up in the second half, it was just unreal. They worked their asses off.
Yeah, it definitely built. I thought they both did an excellent job of selling that. The only problem I had with the actual main event was they had the mics too close to Sami Zayn, and I could hear him coaching. I think it was Jey Uso through the match.
Yeah,
that's the only thing about that is they needed to back that up. That happens, by the way, guys. Every match you'll ever watch, that happens.
Yeah,
that happens sometimes.
They did it. I think they were doing it because they wanted you to hear the little nuances.
Yeah, the other stuff.
Yeah. So it made sense, and it's funny though because I swear every John Cena match he has now is my camera went away. Well, whatever. Every John Cena match nowadays is click the camera button, turn it back on. What the fuck is this? Sorry, language.
I don't worry, we're late night Saturday night.
But I swear every time Cena has a match now, it's just you can hear him just screaming spots out.
Yeah. And the problem I have with that match, and even though I thought it was a solid match, I just knew what was happening during that match. I knew who was passing the torch. They wanted to push Theory, and John Cena's not coming back to WWE full time right now.
No.
So that match was pretty much a passing of the torch match.
The whole show was the booking was very predictable, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It was predictable because it was all logical. Like everything just made sense.
Yeah, they pretty much, there was only so many space, directions you can go at certain situations. Like the Bloodline, I can clearly tell you, and I'm pretty sure you know who's going to win tomorrow night's main event. I would be absolutely shocked and disturbed if Cody does not walk away with those belts. It's because the storyline is more than ran its course. So
yeah, but I do worry they'll do something dumb and have I don't know. They'll do something dumb and have Roman win just to throw that curveball because you got. If that happens, then I'm 100% convinced Vince is booking the show because Hunter, for the most part, or Paul, has been very, very logical in his booking. It's been really, really fun, really good booking.
Yeah, I didn't like opening up, even though the show with. I think it hurts the U.S. title when they open it up with that. I thought that should have been deep. Card.
You know what?
Open it up with the Street Profits.
As many times as you've seen Lesnar open up a show though with the world title, I think it's perfectly fine to have the.
I was always against that too. See, I'm old school when it comes to WrestleMania, and the reason why it's mid card. There's not a bottom card. You're mid card. Mid card means you go just before the heavy hitters. So if you have one of those upper tier belts, that should mean something going into these big events. And when you just open the show, I mean, it's like, I remember the closest they used to do that was when Demolition opened up WrestleMania, I think WrestleMania 4 or 5.
Yeah, something like that.
But that was like every match was a high end title match or a high leverage match,
Well, my argument's going to be is that opening match always has to be something hot that's going to get the crowd going. And I think it's totally fine to open that with a. I think it's fine to open a title match at this point. Like I 100% get where you're coming from because they don't really ever, you know what I mean? No one ever. We come from the era where if you open the show, you're the curtain jerker. You are the. Yeah, it doesn't bother me anymore, man. Like at one point it would have, but I think I'm past that.
Now, one match on here that I had no business thinking it would be as good, even though I have appreciated this person's um, the work that this person has put into being new in the game, was the Logan Paul Seth Rollins match. I actually enjoyed that match.
Really, you didn't think it'd be that good?
Well, here's the thing, and it's not a knock on either person, but it took Seth Rollins so long. I mean, look at where Seth Rollins is now, and look at where he was where Logan Paul was entering the game. And I know Logan Paul has experience in boxing and combat, but it's a different animal when you're at this stage.
Well, the one thing with
Wrestling.
Logan Paul that you're not hearing very much about is, and they did it for Bad Bunny too, and it's really smart. They're not going in there and training those guys to be like true pro wrestlers. They're going in there and training them to have a match and have this specific match, which is really smart. Like if you're an actor, you don't go into a role to learn how to do 10 roles. You go to do that one role, especially when you're new, I should say. So I think it's very smart with how they're training those guys to do those one-off matches.
Well, yeah, he also has to be careful because I don't think he's learned to do these high spots without hurting himself. There was a couple of close calls where I'm like, dude, you just came back from another injury.
Yeah, I bet they're gimmicking. I bet they're gimmicking those announce tables and stuff like that for them, which is fine. Which is what they should be doing. Like,
because the Mexican announce table is never. Do they ever get a chance to announce a match? Does ever get a chance to announce a match? Because they're the first ones to go. They sometimes they do take the other ones out and they just stand and do the rest of the show. But I guarantee you, if you're doing the Mexican WWE announce table, you're only working about 15 minutes before somebody clears you out.
Yeah, you're in peril. If you're in that if you're a Spanish announcer, you're always in peril.
Yeah, I thought that match was solid. Like I said, I didn't see. So we went from Seth Rollins to
well, I'm not gonna lie. That was my bathroom break match, but I caught the end of it. But I will say, like, I absolutely hate Seth's character. This laughing dude,
yeah.
it's got to go, man. Like I can't take him seriously. Like so, I don't enjoy. And the guy's such a phenomenal wrestler. He's a great promo. He doesn't need to do this stupid shit. Like just be you, Seth. Just be a wrestler.
Yeah, now the one I thought was the weakest one, and listen, I thought the best match of the night was a female match, so I'm not a misogynist, but the Blast from the Past, Becky Lynch, Lita, Trish Stratus, and Damage Control.
Yeah, I agree. I think it had the match. I think it was the match with the least amount of heat to it too. Like I didn't really care that much about it. It's just and this is again not a knock on Trish or Lita. They're right. They're innovators in women's wrestling. They really were, and really broke through a mold. Before they came around, the women there were always this eye candy. Even like Sable wasn't a good wrestler.
Yeah,
but they were good wrestlers for their time period, but they can't keep up with the.
No,
it's a different era. Plus, they're older. But man, props to them for going out there. They busted their asses. Though.
Well, no, and I'm not knocking them. They for what they are right now, they did admirably.
Oh, dude, and even saying it's a worst match on the show, it wasn't a bad match at all. I was entertained.
There was just some spots where I'm like, you got these thoroughbreds in there with Bailey and Kai and all those guys, and then you have and Lita's still athletic, but it's just a different game from when they got those guys, and you could tell there was a pacing issue.
Yeah,
but I thought it enjoyable. That was my not bathroom match. I didn't leave to go to the bathroom, but I went a little bit further away from the TV because, like I said, that match didn't have the leverage for me as some of the other storylines did. But I didn't think it was, like I said, tonight just was a good night for them as far as like their actual booking and their spots and their blocking of their matches.
I would say
it hasn't been that way in a while.
Well, and it was also one of the most theatrical WrestleManias I've seen ever. And I hate to say this, but I think like this is proof they're trying to sell ASAP because they were definitely trying to put on the show that was like, hey, buy us.
Vince coming back to be an employee for a 2-year contract. That's just enough to sell the company. Yeah,
I know they're trying to act like it's not a big deal, but screw that, man. If you can, William, you work at Home Depot. If some guy gets fired from Home Depot or if a manager resigns for what Vince resigned for, they're not going to bring him back as an employee.
Yeah,
that's just such a dude. That is just not okay.
Especially for that, it's just too much. You'd have so many people walking away, but then they don't care if they're going to sell it. It's going to be a shell. I can't see if Universal is not the buyer, That's just fucking stupid for me.
No, they're not going to buy it, man. They're not going to buy it because of the money that they want for it. Like
They're not getting that though. They're not getting that money.
No. I'd be shocked though if it wasn't the Saudis. I'd really be shocked if it wasn't them.
Oh man. Ugh.
And it's oh dude, I think there's a lot of cards at play right here. And then with excuse me. I think with Nick Khan saying they wouldn't be against to going back to traditional pay-per-view, I think that's gonna really hurt them if they go that route, because just imagine, man, like there's gonna we've all gotten used now to pay $9.99 a month to watch all the old stuff and watch all the pay-per-views. People aren't gonna shell out $60 or a pay-per-view every month, maybe every 3 months.
Yeah.
But they could try to really fuck AEW and just have a big pay-per-view every 3 months on the same weekend that AEW runs.
But see, here's the thing though. It's going to come down to, the cable companies won't allow that. They won't allow that.
I think they will. I think they will. I know what you mean. Back in the 80s, they put a stop to that. When WWE would counter program WCW, the cable companies are like, no, dude, like you're costing us money. But in 2023, I think even AEW sells more pay-per-views on streaming than they do on traditional cable. So I don't think that would happen.
It's I don't know. If I were running AEW, I would move it, not because I'm scared of W. I want 100% of the eyeballs on my product on any given night. The problem here's the thing though, is not only has the only people that are doing high level pay-per-views that cost that kind of money in America is AEW. But when you look at their pay-per-views, we're never. You can make a lot of complaints about what AEW, some of the stuff that they do, but when it comes to matchability, their pay-per-views, I know when, and I'm a cheap ass. I know when I drop that cash, I know what I'm getting.
I mean,
hell, free TV. What's Kenny Omega doing on
dude, insane.
That El Viking match? What the hell was that? They gave you that on free TV.
Yeah, and not to get too far away from WrestleMania, but I've bought or been to every AEW pay-per-view, and I've never been disappointed in a single one. And we'll get to it later, but also that if you haven't watched the Ring of Honor pay-per-view on Friday, was unbelievable.
Yeah, I did. I kind of want to. That was I love the way they're handling that. Those belts are ugly, but I love the way they're handling Ring of Honor as Ring of Honor. Getting back to WrestleMania real quick, but when you watch, I watched the Sinclair Ring of Honor era.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm like, but when you watch, if you watch the Ring of Honor product since 2002 or whatever, you got a feel that that he's handling that as it is a Ring of Honor. He's not bastardizing it. So I got
into Ring of Honor back when it started, I think in 2003, and or 2, whatever. And I was like, I was buying I still have a couple cardboard boxes full of the old DVDs, which I think might actually be worth money nowadays. But I love old Ring of Honor, and this show kind of reminded me of that. Before we get back to WrestleMania 2, shout out to Dante Martin, man. Like, dude destroyed his leg again, and that kid's 21 or 22, and I just hope he makes a full recovery because it did not look good. Like, if you haven't seen it yet, William, don't watch it. It was rough.
Oh man, I can't watch those injuries because a lot of time I watched an injury like that when somebody told me not to, and I watched it. It was Alex Smith's injury. And I didn't realize at that time that almost killed him because of the infections and stuff. Remember that? But yeah, WrestleMania. Because like I said, this was actually a fun show. The Rey Mysterio one. Now I had a customer come in while I was dealing with this one. I thought they played the angle. I mean, his mom slapped the shit out of him, and his sister. He poured his sister's face.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that was. You got your emotional high. I knew who was winning that match, but I had no problem with who was on that match. The whole LWO thing, I'm like, okay, I didn't need to see that again.
I think it's funny because if you were around for the LWO like we were,
I was.
It was not played for it was played for laughs. They didn't play to be serious. It was it was meant to be. It was meant to play. Let's play pistol. It was meant to be racist as hell and make fun of Mexicans.
Yeah, it wasn't sold merchandise because I would go to their shows and see LWO shirts. I'm like, okay, this is no one gives a shit.
Well,
okay,
the problem is that not the problem, but Eric Bischoff didn't realize Mexican people have some of the best senses of. I mean, as a Mexican guy, we have good senses of humor.
And it came from Eddie Guerrero. It was coming from
and you have Eddie Guerrero, and Eddie Guerrero could do anything and get it over. So
Yeah, and they sold a ton of those shirts, man.
Dom's entrance, though, I thought was one of my favorite things of the whole show. The hardened criminal Dominic Mysterio was the best.
I thought that was cool, but I thought his dad did him one better.
His dad.
Yeah.
Well, see,
with Snoop Dogg.
I messaged my friend and I said, if they really want to get heat, they should have Dominic come in and do the Eddie Guerrero entrance with the car. And they didn't. I was like, oh, that's a bummer. And then Ray came out. I'm like, oh, that's why. That's super cool. Yeah. And Snoop Dogg was awesome. And then
the car. That was a cool ass car too.
But they missed a golden opportunity to have the best spot in the history of WrestleMania. When Dominic gets out of the ring and he's jaw jacking with his mom, if his mom just pulled her chancla off and started beating the shit out of him, that'd have been the best thing ever.
Hilarious.
But you couldn't do that.
Yeah. I thought that was cool though. I mean that they were by the ringside.
Yeah.
And that match ended the way it should. That was a predictable match, but it was fun. I didn't think it hurt the card. I thought it kept it going. It kept it the momentum.
And it definitely sets up Bad Bunny versus Dominic Mysterio for Backlash, which again, like it does nothing for me, but believe me, they're not bringing Bad Bunny in for some 40 and 50-year-old dudes to give a shit. They're bringing him in for
Bad Bunny is numbers. Yeah, Bad Bunny is a numbers guy. And be honest with you, for a guy who has who's not a wrestler, when he gets in there, I'm not saying I would pay to see him, but he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't hurt a match. Like Rodman. Back in the day when Rodman and Macho Man went against somebody, I'm like, Rodman, okay, but Rodman actually went and got trained to do this.
Yeah,
he wasn't bad.
He just showed up drunk. That's the only problem.
That's his
and to be fair, I think Bad Bunny's a better wrestler than The Miz, so there's that.
Yeah, I do, but see The Miz, and I've always said this before, if there's somebody who is underused, and I know he's not the greatest.
What are they going to do with him? He's he's a wrestler. He's not even a wrestler. He's a guy who's cosplaying a wrestler is what he looks like. He's a fantastic promo, a great character, but I don't want to see him in the wrestling ring as a host of WrestleMania. Perfectly fine. I don't need to see him fighting Pat McAfee, but
I didn't need to see that. That I did go to the bathroom for.
As a 49er fan, though, I did mark out for George Kittle. So
Kittles came out there.
Yeah, and you can tell it's funny because the crowd was kind of quiet. I'm like, oh, they're in LA, dude. They do not like Kittle in LA.
Yeah, they should have got a Rams guy or somebody like that. I mean,
Aaron Donald or somebody like that. But Kittle's a huge WWE fan. But the Pat McAfee thing, whatever. Like people like McAfee, that's fine. And then we go on.
Understand it. The crowd popped for him. I'm like, I don't understand it, but you guys have fun. You hate to be there. You cheer for whoever the hell you want.
Yeah, dude. And then we already kind of talked about Rhea Ripley and Charlotte, but when Charlotte took that German suplex on her face.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Like, please don't do it. Like, she shouldn't do that. Like,
she took a couple of them. She took two.
Dude, they
took one that the announcers noticed, and then they took another one where she went over on her face again.
They worked such a great match, and I love how at the end they really picked up the physicality and intensity to kind of just show like we can't beat each other with our moves. We got to go all out. And great finish, great match. I love that match. That's going to be one of those matches I think people are going to talk about for a long time. And then main event, dude. Main event, perfect ending. Sam getting the pin. Perfect with Kane. And dude, there are people crying. Like, what a great culmination of the storyline. I thought it was perfect.
The only thing, and I said this over again, I love this match. This match was good. I thought the Charlotte match was better.
It was a weird match. It was like the best weird match I've ever seen.
Yeah, and then like I said, with them, with doing it. The only thing about this, and then when it ends tomorrow night, it'll mercifully end, is I thought this was a great storyline that lasted a year and a half too long.
Yeah, well,
and I think it hurt the value of the title, and I think it hurt Roman. I know people are going to say like, oh, Roman Reigns at the top of the card, but I think long term, I don't think these long reigns like this do good for the title holders because it subliminally turns you off in a way. Like back in the day, and I know I'm old, but back in the day, Ric Flair did not need to hold the belt forever. Him dropping the belt, his quest getting it back was what built up his prestige.
And that's NWA, but historically, you go back very far in WWE, and you had Bruno and Backlund and Hogan, all those guys carrying the belts for multiple years. Punk had it for almost over a year.
But that's a year. He had 400 some days. But
I think
3 years, dude.
I think what they did right though is that they really elevated the U.S. title, not the Intercontinental title, Gunther's belt. Gunther's belt kind of like what New Japan did when Okada had his long reign, was they made it to where the Never Championship was such a big deal that and the Intercontinental Championship was a big deal where those could headline shows. So I'm not against him having the belt for that long, but you have to have the other belts elevated or people care enough about those two. But if you're gonna say you're right, my dog is just fucking it's. Well, my 15-year-old dog is running circles around the house. I don't know what's happening.
That's a lot of energy for a 15-year-old dog.
But they did, so that's fine. But I know I get what you're coming from on there. I think the fact though that when Sammy started getting over, they let it play out organically was the smartest thing they did, and they come out of it with some bigger stars. So the only way I'm going to say it wasn't done perfectly is if somehow Roman beats Cody tomorrow, in which case I'm just going to be like, what the fuck?
That would be that might hurt this whole pay-per-view, because right now you have a pay-per-view in the books and it's a pretty solid card. Tomorrow's card, I forgot what we got. What do we have for tomorrow? We have
Almost versus Brock Lesnar.
Okay, that's why this is what I mean by having this did need to be a 2-day event. Yes, it turns out that some of these matches ended up being stellar, but them being stellar matches and them needing to be on your biggest stage,
but I'd rather be a 2-day event than be like one 7-hour long show.
Cut the matches. Cut some matches. Almost.
Yeah, you don't need that. You could get rid of the showcase matches. You can get rid of the damage control match. That could be on Raw. But tomorrow, the Hell in a Cell with Finn and Edge. Asuka versus Bianca Belair, I think. And then
that
Cody,
might be one of the best matches. I am looking for.
Me too.
Reigns, Cody. That's the pay-per-view. Anything I got on top of that match is a pay-per-view. Oh, and WWE. I know you're not watching this stream. Don't bring back the big gold belt. Stop it. All right, stop it with the big gold belt. First of all, it doesn't fit the storyline because Dusty held that belt already.
Yeah, they'd have to bring back the Winged Eagle.
It needs to be the Winged Eagle for this to make sense.
Yeah.
And I saw the WWE shop thing, and everybody was like, because I'm in a bunch of belt groups, they're like, "Oh my God, it's $400! You got a WWE shot!" And I looked at it, and I'm like, "All right, that's great." But then I looked at some of the lettering was on. I'm like, "Oh man!" But they're like, "It's WrestleMania. This belt belongs to WrestleMania." I'm like, "No, that belt belongs at Starrcade."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, WWE Shop just released the because the one they had before, the one I bought was the wing was the one from like WrestleMania 4, where it was the double plated one, and they just brought back the modern Winged Eagle, the one that Bret Hart held with the black lettering and everything. Yeah,
that's the one I want.
With the gold and the black lettering. So I might fucking buy that too. We'll see. Getting off topic there though, but yeah, man, it should be good. And I think someone brought up how we feel about Randy Orton being Cody's first challenger. I think that'd be fantastic if he's ready to go.
Well, there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of history because I don't think you're going to see Reigns for a while. I think you're going to see Usos. They're going to need to take a break.
Yeah, realistically, the guy I'd like to see them kind of elevate and fight Cody would be Bronson Reed. I think he can really get over as a major player if they really let him. I just hope it's not like heel Braun Strowman. I hope to God it's not fucking Omos.
That would be stupid.
You could do Solo Sikoa. There's a lot of options.
Yeah, so because he's a part of the bloodline that you haven't seen the entire time. He came in towards the end, so I could see that. It's going to be interesting because I think Cody is the perfect champ for right now.
Yeah, I always think Cody's with the way he is, perfect like white meat baby face, but he could be a good heel. I personally think Cody's built to be a heel because I'm not I love Cody Rhodes, but his facial expressions he has the most heelish fake smile I've ever seen in my life. Even if it's a real smile, it looks fake as shit. He's meant to be a heel. But I think it'll be cool, man. Like I'm really happy for Cody. I really am. Like he wasn't what the AEW audience wanted, is what he wasn't, and he was trying to be that white meat baby face in a promotion that really wanted to get behind the workhorses and get behind the younger talent. And I think him going back at WWE was the smartest thing. And who knows, man? In 3 years, he goes back to AEW. He'll go back there as the biggest baby face in the world. So what a smart business move.
He's 1 year into a 3-year contract, so he'd only be 37, 38 by the time it's over with. He'd have plenty of wrestling years.
But I also think they're gonna back the Brinks truck up to his house and give him any amount of money he wants to stay because They don't want to lose anybody, and I think it's going to come down realistically to like, who knows? Who knows where WWE is in 2 years? If they've sold to the Saudis, if people don't want to work there, like, who fucking knows?
I can't believe that would be a possibility. Universal, listen, here's the problem with Universal not being the buyer. They lose control over what's a good portion of their library and their inventory right now.
They wouldn't lose Peacock if they kept the money in Peacock, but they're already paying a shitload of money for Raw. It makes all the sense in the world for them to buy it, and now they don't have to pay rights fees every year.
Exactly, you cut out,
But if TV continues to decline, rights fees are going to actually go down for the first time ever. So there's a lot of stuff at play, and I'm not going to pretend to be an economist and go that route. But I do think, though, we're like in a really fun era in wrestling where all kinds of crazy stuff's happening. And also my other favorite thing about WrestleMania weekend is if you have Fight TV, you can watch all the fun independent shows going on. Like I watched the GCW shows yesterday and Josh Brennan's Bloodsport on Thursday, which Bloodsport's like my favorite style of wrestling. And the GCW show had some fun, really good matches.
Yeah, we had the multiverse, the multiverse of matches that was on Fight the other night.
Yeah, that you have to pay extra for because it's TNA. It's like $25. But for the $7 a month for Fight TV, you get all the other stuff, all the GCW stuff, the live with Dax Harwood. Tonight, actually, right now, just actually starting in about 8 minutes, is the World on Lucha, which is GCW's Lucha show, which is going to have Vikingo versus Laredo Kid, which they're going to tear the house down.
Yeah, I mean, for them to put him on a main event of a TV match, and I don't know what it is about Kenny Omega. He could be fighting a tree, and that would be
and his match with Cobb was so different than the match with Vikingo, and it was just amazing. And if you didn't watch a whole ROH pay-per-view, Vikingo versus Commander was out of this world.
I mean, it's like, dude. I mean, if you look at the best matches of the year, he's in like 3 of them. Because to me right now, the best match of the year is still Wrestle Kingdom, him versus Will Ospreay. I've seen matches come close to this
without question.
And all the match that came close to it to me the other night was also involved Kenny Omega. So this guy is just still putting out. Now, what do you think is kind of on topic? Where's FPR going?
I think they've already. If I was a betting man, and I could be wrong, I bet money that they already signed with AEW.
So do I. That's what I'm thinking. I just didn't even hear it and not hear my own voice.
Yeah, I bet money they did that. I don't know, man. And again, do I like to stay at the AEW? Of course. If WWE is going to give them life-changing money and that's what they need for their families, like you got to do what you got to do.
That's what the Good Brothers did. The Good Brothers took that and then they disappeared.
But the Good Brothers though are not as good of wrestlers as FTR.
No, they never were. They never were. They never were. But they still got more money. And it's like, okay. I mean, but I think that they would stay. The reasons I think they would stay in AEW, I'm going to read this real quick, Anthony, is because of that they still like collecting multiple checks from other federations, and AEW is much more pliable as far as New Japan and other AAA. So
yes, they can work anywhere and have a great time. All right,
I'm going to read this question because it's for both of us. Mondo and William, with Triple H as head of creative, do you think they can use the Latino World Order gimmick as a serious gimmick instead of a joke like they did in WCW?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's been long enough. Like I said, most people don't remember the gimmick in WCW. And if they really make Ray the head of it and have Legado del Fantasma there and treat it the right way, yeah, without question, I think it'd actually be really cool.
Yeah. So any more questions in there for Mondo while we got him here? Because I don't want to have a bunch of questions coming after you leave, and then I'm like, no, he's gone.
I'm tired, man. I'm about ready to go.
Yeah,
that's the only wrestling question.
Okay. All right, cool, man. Anything else going on? Dave Mustaine needs to stop doing interviews, by the way.
Dave Mustaine should have stopped making music after Countdown to Extinction. What is Count?
He's got there's some stuff after that, but he's pushing 60. He's pushing 60, and he still has the chip on. I understand 1984, 1985, Dave. I completely understand.
It's been 40 years.
Yeah, you got mad and you produced some of the best shit ever seen. But you're pushing 60 and you're Megadeth. It's not like you're Pete Best. It's not like you're the guy who didn't make it. You're Megadeth. You're on the same stage. But yeah, I meant to ask you about that the other
Yeah,
day.
no,
I'm like,
that's a good one. And where I think Braun Breaker is going to go, like I don't know. I think it just wherever they have a need for a monster. Did you read about Rick Steiner this weekend? By the way,
oh, dude, and I grew up a huge fan of both Steiner brothers, and I tolerated a lot of goofy stuff that you heard about them. And listen, if you have your opinion, that's one thing. But you don't have to be mean about it.
dude,
What I'm hearing was just mean.
It takes zero effort to be nice to human beings, and like I don't care if you understand. No trans person is asking you to 100% understand it. They just want you to respect it. That's all you got to do. Like you don't have to understand you don't have to understand something to respect it and respect someone's wishes and not be a piece of shit. And it sucks.
And I heard about it, and I heard about it through so many different angles and so many different other promotions about it. And then I saw all the other promotions supporting her. And I heard that first. I'm like, what did he do? What happened? And then I read it. I'm like, dude. And then I read what he said. And I'm like, I understand you're old school. You're pushing 60s. This doesn't fit for you. But just like you said, it's free to just move on and just understand and be okay with the fact that you will never understand that person's life decisions. But he went out of his way.
But why
that was hurt.
And why
community and the suicide rate,
man?
I'm like, dude, come on,
dude. And man, I see all these fucking people trying to defend him, be like, he's entitled to his own opinion. Well, he is, but you're not entitled to be a fucking bully. Like you shouldn't talk to anybody that way, no matter what their lifestyle is. And like you said, dude, it takes no effort to let people live their lives. They want to live their lives. Let them try to be happy.
And they told him to kick rocks. I mean, they just said, you're done. We don't even want you. You're not even allowed to come in the building on any of the events. And he's probably going to be banned. And WrestleCon's a pretty decent, it's pretty decent to haul. I mean,
he doesn't do a lot of shows because WrestleCon's a big paycheck for him.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, that's off the table. And you're not wrestling no more.
Let's also talk about he works on the school board in
he's ahead of it. Yeah.
So man, to Music Man, that's a question. Yeah, he totally came out. Oh, sorry. We kind of pivoted Vince and Music Man. No, it was Rick Steiner, the wrestler, who came out being crazy transphobic. I don't know about Dave Mustaine. So I can't talk bad about it. Dave Mustaine was just, he won't let go of the fact that he got kicked out of Metallica.
Fired from Metallica. That's 40 years ago, homie.
That bothers me a lot less than Rick Steiner being transphobic.
Like, I'm gonna ask you guys a question. Nobody probably knows who the first guitar player for Def Leppard was. Pete Willis, right? Nobody knows who that guy is because when he got fired, he went up into obscurity. He's probably working at a Starbucks in the UK with a chip on his shoulder that he never got to take off. You're Dave Mustaine. You're Megadeth, dude. There's only a handful of names that are at that level, and to do it in thrash metal, what Metallica had to do is transform to more mainstream than they ever would have before, like 1986 on. Dave Mustaine pretty much stayed. He may have slowed down a little bit, but he's a thrash metal god and commercial level thrash metal, which I never thought in the 80s. I never thought I would be able to say thrash metal is going to sell out an arena.
Me either.
1986, and he did it. He's Megadeth. So I'd be like, yeah, you know what? It sucks. I thought this was over with. I thought he had made up with them and all that, but he's still carrying it, man.
Well, and if you ever listen to Ron McGovney, Metallica's original bassist, did a interview with Chris on Chris Jericho's podcast, and just talked about how much of a piece of crap that guy was. Like, he was not a good person.
Yeah, I mean, but in people, if over 40 years, he became, what he needed to be. A lot of people would have just gone into drugs and stupor and would have probably drank themselves or drugged themselves to death. He didn't. He went out and created. I would be looking back at like, I'm Megadeth.
Yeah.
Arguably, you have a good portion of that community that says, I hold you in higher regard than Metallica. I might not agree with that, but if that's the conversation, you're okay. You're okay. So
it's sad. So real fast before I go, my thoughts on vinyl coming back. I love it and hate it because I've been buying vinyl for forever, and I love vinyl records. And now they're getting more expensive because every mainstream artist now is doing vinyl. But this is I don't know if you can see on the webcam, but my collection. That's my collection of vinyl.
Holy cow!
See, I've been buying vinyl for forever.
I want all this stuff to come back. And part of my topic after you go is I want these old places to go back. I want Tower Records back. I want Borders back. I want the vinyl places back. Not just because of the material.
You got Zia. Zia's cool, man. Zia's a cool.
Zia's cool, but Zia can't carry that burden all by itself. And Zia's its own place. Whereas, like when I walked into Tower Records and WoW and Borders,
Odyssey. Come on, tell me you remember Odyssey midnight releases.
Odyssey. Oh man, in our part of town, Odyssey is used. It was the safest place in that part of town on Western. So yeah, but I just love the community that when these are places of gathering where you just met people and the internet's changed everything. So. Go ahead and read that real quick before you go.
Mondo and William, do you think WWE does with El Hijo de Vikingo what they did with Dragon Lee after they saw him on AEW? They basically signed him to a contract for WWE from underneath AEW's nose. I don't know. Like, I think that there has to be interest in him, right? Like, he's so freaking good. There's no way there's not. But he's also getting. So Dragon Lee was a weird case where I think he got, and I could be wrong on this, but I think he got blackballed by some of the Mexicans promotions based on like the whole way they do business in wrestling in Mexico is like if you work for the wrong person one time in your life, you are basically just banned from other promotion. And they didn't like the fact he was working with with New Japan, I think. So I think he kind of got blackballed. Whereas Vikingo is the AAA mega champion, so I think he's getting paid pretty well. So
I think Kingo will wrestle in New Japan. It's just all been to who you are. I think these matches where Kingo is being put on this kind of stage gives him the leverage to be able to work. Whereas I don't think Dragon Lee. But to me, I know who Dragon Lee is. Yeah. But as far as like the mainstream TV.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Dragon Lee, like his goal in wrestling was to get to WB.
Yeah, that's some people. It's not. It's for some people, and it's not for some. For me, if I was one of these guys who was could walk into an indie and make a good just paycheck off the fly, there's not too many companies that are going to allow you to do that. Yeah. And that's why with FTR, I mean, FTR can go to Japan and put on an Aussie Open match and beat people in a 4-star match.
And it's also the thing though with AEW, they're still going to have the lighter schedule, and they're probably and I bet you AEW is going to pay him. The interesting one coming up too is apparently Drew McIntyre is in the last year of his contract and doesn't like how much WWE is offering him, so that could be really interesting.
Everybody's got to get that money because you never know when that bump. You get that bump that puts you out. Who's the best celebrity wrestler?
I think that's an easy one. Andy Kaufman, right?
They just put him in the Hall of Fame too, by the way, which I thought was. I'm not a big fan of the WWE Hall of Fame. I understand what it is. But you know how I feel about Hall of Fame. I don't think any promotion should do it.
Yeah,
that's like your own ring. But Andy Kaufman, was big for them. The Great Muta being in the WWE Hall of Fame,
pretty awesome.
Absolute bullshit. I'm sorry. I have nothing but the highest regard for the Great Muta, but he wrestled as much time in WWE as I did. Me and the Great Muta wrestled the same amount of matches in WWE. So I'm sorry. Why is that happening? But
real as a best celebrity wrestler, realistically, probably Logan Paul, to be honest.
We can because now he's actually transitioned over. He's done more. When he did that one in the end, he damn near broke both his legs. I'm like, I don't see people who've been in the sport a long time doing that, and your ass is brand new. And I felt that. I hurt for him. And then he was out for a while after that because then he hurt it. He pulled something or tore something, or he was out for like a good while. So he's got to watch out because some of these guys have been doing it. They know how to take these bunches. Like when we were doing this wrestling thing last week here, I was playing around. And, I played around in the ring. You saw when I did the spear one time. Yeah. That takes conditioning. This ain't no joke, guys. When you watch people on these screens, these people are even the guys who don't look like they're in the best of shape are in better shape than all of us or most of us. Not you because you're wrestling, but everybody watching, like the guy in the crowd, dude, that is not. You're not just.
It's a different kind of cardio. It's a legit like tough cardio.
Yeah,
it's why I tell people why I tell people about jiu-jitsu. Like we'll get people in who are marathon runners and triathletes, and they can't their first 5-minute round they can't hang because this is a different cardio. You have to learn how to pace yourself and how to use it differently. Go through what your guys' favorite band? That was basically a combination of people from other bands. That's a tough one, but I would say there's a European death metal band from Sweden called Bloodbath, which is Dan Swaino from a million different bands, Anders Nystrom from Catatonia, Blackheim from Catatonia, and the drummer from Opeth, Axelrod. So they're probably my favorites.
Larry, if you're watching, yes, I did check out Meshuggah, and you are right. I rather enjoyed them. I hadn't heard them.
Not
until
Meshuggah.
Meshuggah. Yeah, it'll take me a year to get that right. But no, when we talk music, they always give me bands to listen to, and I thought, I hadn't heard of that band.
They're not my favorites, but I saw them in '99 open for Slayer, and at the Joint, and they're killer.
The Joint killer. At the Hard Rock.
At the Hard Rock,
Another fucking place that doesn't exist.
99. Vince, I'm also a big fan of European metal, not huge into power metal and folk metal. A couple good American power metal bands, actually, Visigoth, Eternal Champion, and Sumerlands, all highly recommended. And then a friend of mine turned me on to this band called Maul with an E at the end, Maule, and they are like just straight Iron Maiden worship, and they're fucking good. They're really good. And I was surprised. Is AJ Styles gone? No, AJ Styles has a broken ankle.
Yeah,
he'll be back.
He's got another good 3 years left. He got one more good paycheck. I wish he would have spent the last 8 years somewhere else.
Nah, man, good for he earned his money, man. It's what he wanted.
Oh no, I just think he could have earned money somewhere else. Would you Ready to Rumble? I didn't like that movie.
Nah, it was. You know what? It's probably one that I'd probably laugh at nowadays. But I remember when it came out, and I watched. I fucking hated it because it's made.
But then again, there are no such things other than the Mickey Rourke movie.
Yeah,
there are no such things as really. You know what you're getting. Like No Holds Barred was that was cheesy, but it was cool.
Yeah,
14-year-old me was like, "Oh, this is cool."
Have you seen that show on Stars called Heels?
Yeah.
I really dug that, and they're doing a second season, which is cool.
Yeah, I saw that. I watched that because I got tired of watching Vice. I can't watch anything about wrestling from Vice anymore without feeling like shit.
Dude, I pick and choose the ones I watch from those. Like I like the ones that are more about when they're talking like deathmatch wrestling. That was fun with Nick Gage. That was kind of cool because it's kind of cool knowing like he is now no longer in jail, no longer on drugs. When you know the end result is a positive result already, it's easier to watch. But like I'm not watching. I don't need to relive fucking Owen Hart. I don't need to relive Chris Benoit. I don't need to relive like a lot of that shit. So yeah,
Eddie Guerrero one really just put.
Yeah, I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch about Pillman. Like I know the story. I was reading the Wrestling Observer back when that stuff was happening, and I don't need to ever.
I watched No Way Out. I think it was No Way Out in '99. I watched
it too. And no one knew what had happened until the show was over.
Yeah, and I was watching Raw when Chris Benoit and when they
same here.
No one knew what it was, and they were praising him one night, and then when they found out, and they were like, "Holy man, this guy was a monster!" And it turns out it neither was really true. I don't condone. I'm not condoning, so don't be coming after me. I do not condone what Chris Benoit did. That was an awful, horrific thing when he did. But when they looked at his brain and those spots in his brain are dead, I don't condone, but it's not as black and white as it was to me when I first heard about it. If that
I get what you mean with that. It makes sense to me.
Like, good grief. But okay, Mando, if you listen to some of the new rock band, I can recommend you listen to Rival Sons, Greta Van Fleet, John the Conqueror, and they sound really awesome.
So here's what I'm gonna break your heart. I'm in a way into more underground metal than that. Like Rival Sons is okay. I absolutely hate Greta Van Fleet and I hate Led Zeppelin. So that makes sense. I haven't heard John the Conqueror, but I really don't like that style of rock. It's just like probably the lightest bands I listen to is probably like Iron Maiden. It's probably I like some of like the dark folk stuff that's coming out, like Amigo the Devil. But when it comes to metal and rock, I like way more on the darker side of things.
Who's a better Black Sabbath singer?
Ronnie James Dio.
Okay. I put that on. Somebody was just going at me the other day because I posted it and they messaged me. I'm like, you're insane.
People get mad because you're not shitting on Ozzy. Ozzy was great, but Dio was better. Like it's not.
I literally have Children of the Sea as one of my ringtones.
Well, I was always hoping when we were getting a hockey team and they rumored it was gonna be the Neon Knights. I was like, dude, you know how badass it'd be to have Neon Knights playing over that. That'd be cool. All right, William, I really gotta go, man. I'm sorry, bro.
All right, man. I know you're getting up there now. You've joined.
I just turned 40, man. I'm old and tired.
Club. I meant to send you your care package, your Golden Girls VHS, your Metamucil, all your fiber, your Matlock DVDs, all the stuff you need to, and that little microphone. So when you start popping when you get up to sit up, because you no longer just spring out of bed, you got to like do it slowly or you'll hurt yourself. So
No, I do jujitsu, man. So my body stays limber. I get out of bed quick and stretch.
okay, do they have a different class for you now because you can't, like the senior tour for golf?
When you hit 30, you become the Masters division, and I think I'm Masters 3 now or Masters 4.
All right, man. Well, I don't want you to hurt yourself. I mean, I want you to save yourself for me. Oh, by the way, Mister, I'm gonna come challenge you for your belt. I was here, buddy. Dude. I was in the middle of the ring with my 16 pounds of gold.
Was it like
Mondo Mania to come, and he never came?
Shit.
Was it like America? You hear that?
Was it like Vince versus God?
I was telling everybody, I'm like, hey, listen, guys, when you see this guy come at me, just let us go. Just let us go. I've been waiting all night. Well, Golden Girl. Ooh, okay, Rhea. We'll answer that once Monzo's gone because it's going to be weird.
Hey, good night, everybody. Daniel, Vince, man, nice talk. This is a great time. I enjoy being on every time you have me on, and you have a great group of love watchers. So, if you want to check me out more, Dad's from the Crypt. So you can check out my podcast out anywhere where you can hear me get drunk on a weekly basis and talk shit about. A lot of times, I rant about what's going on in the world. So.
Oh, what a wonderful week it's been. Yeah, you might want that. I need to listen to that this week. Ugh.
Hey, man.
All right, man. Get some sleep.
Hey, take it easy, guys.
All right, man.
Bye.
All right, William, who is your favorite Golden Girl and why? It'll probably be Sophia because she was just pretty much, I don't know, Betty White. I think Betty White's character, come to think of it, in hindsight, Betty White, because Betty White just had a positive attitude, even in the shittiest circumstances. And sometimes that's just what you need that one person in the room that sees the glass half full or sees the light between the clouds, because it's really easy to get caught up in all the stuff. And a lot of times during that show, they made her off to be dumb, but it was really, she was an optimist, whereas they were just jaded. She was the exact opposite of Sophia, who was just like, you know what, I've seen too much to think people can be better. Whereas, Rose, I think it was it Rose? Yeah, Rose, because Blanche was there. Just saw the good in everything to the point where she was naive sometimes. But you know what? It was a good balance. So I'm going to go say Betty White's character. Next question. Go ahead and if you want to go back, let me know because I know I missed a bunch of questions. William, should they do shows in the Kelvin timeline? No. The Kelvin timeline served its purpose. I love the Kelvin timeline, and it was a necessary function to cut the tether from old Trek fan, because old Trek fan had a strangulation vice on all things Star Trek. And in order to be able to tell any Star Trek story, you were going to need to cut them off. It was like having them on your raft, and if they were going to weigh the raft down. So what you did, you cut them loose and let them wade water for a while you rebuilt your raft into a ship. Now that the ship is done, now you can allow these people back on again. But no, I don't. I want to see one more story about the Kelvin timeline that will wrap up the Kelvin timeline and restore the Prime timeline. But other than that, I don't want to see any. Personally, I don't want to see any continuation, because in the time that the Kelvin timeline has been introduced, we built Star Trek into something very beautiful, so that I don't think it's needed right now. Next one.
Okay, that's actually all the questions.
Okay.
Do you want me to bring up some comments?
Yeah, let's bring up some comments too, because I know whenever we have guests on there, and I'm horrible even while I'm by myself, so I don't want to miss anybody, because I saw some stuff scroll by. That was all right. Not much of a current era wrestling fan, but I love Pat McCann. I don't get Pat McCann. I don't get it. And like I said, we were watching it here, and they just marked out for the guy. Like he was like, and I'm like, okay, hey, cool. And they had his little impromptu match, and and the Miz just got his ass kicked, which is, what the Miz done to him these days. But I think I disagree with Mondo. I think the Miz, if you had the proper story and the proper thing, yes, he's not the best wrestler. Yes, he probably hasn't improved as much as he should. But there's a lot of guys making a lot of money and getting a lot of TV guy at time that follows in the same circumstances, that are not as good on the mic and can't carry a show like he can. So, all right, next one. My favorite match of the night was Rhea and Charlotte same year. I'm glad the Aussie girl Rhea won. One of the things, and I criticize WWE a lot, because for the most part, the product just hasn't been that good for the last 22, 25 years. It just hasn't been overall that good. They have had high spots, and they've had tremendous amounts of talent. But for overall, their product to me has been declining since 1998. But one of the things that they have done really well is they've elevated women to the high top of the card. The match you saw tonight with Charlotte. Remember, Charlotte and Becky Lynch main evented. They didn't just have a championship match. They made Ronda Rousey, same thing. They main evented a WrestleMania. All right. No other promotion was doing that like that. AEW has put on some great women's matches on their shows, but they haven't main evented their pay-per-view, their main pay-per-view, not just like a in your house type of deal. They main evented the pay-per-view, WrestleMania. And no other promotion is doing that the way they are. Now, you have Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa putting on probably much better matches when they did it but they did that on TV. You're talking about WrestleMania. So I did enjoy that. I wouldn't have minded if I know the Usos story was bigger, but I wouldn't have minded if the Usos was second billing to Charlotte and Rhea Ripley, because that was a world title match as well. So I think they handled it well. But yeah, that was my favorite match of the night. Next one. Good luck to the next winner. Yeah. Yeah, now that Vince has won his, he's like, I don't care about him. But yeah, I will be announcing, because we're going to be doing another overnighter tomorrow from here. So I will be announcing that, and then I will announce some more throughout the rest, because we have three episodes left of Picard season 3. So I'll probably give the remaining ones out at each one of those shows. All right, next one. Aaron Pritchard, Rhea won. Hell yeah. Yeah, she won. It was a pretty physical match, too. You had two people who have a lot of power. Charlotte Blair is one of the best athletes in the game right now. I mean, she's one of the most agile, and she's got a lot of power, and it was a good match to watch because Rhea Ripley is very powerful. When she can move, she can do a lot of stuff. Her, Bianca Blair, some of these women are powerhouses, and when you put them up against other women that are not powerhouses, sometimes the match suffers a little bit. But with Charlotte Blair and Rhea Ripley, you didn't have that problem. They were both powerhouses. They were both doing power moves, and they were both selling. So, yep. By the way, hi, Kiki. Love that name. Next one. Charlotte and Rhea. What should have been a main event. I love the final match, but not as. Yeah, that does it. I would have had no problem with Rhea Ripley and Charlotte being the last match of the night. No problem at all. But as it was, that storyline with the bloodline and that the million days that they held the titles and that coming to an end was like a big weight coming off of the show. So, next one. You know, I'm a Trek fan when I buy Generations on Laserdisc. When you buy anything on Laserdisc, first of all, it's expensive, and two, there's not a lot of them around. Speaking of, we have a place called Half Price Books here where I found that Laserdisc. That's cool. That's probably where you're going to find some of these things now, especially physical. Next one. Also bought Wrath of Khan 4K here. Was nude, so not just using stuff. Yeah, there's a 40. I think I have it at my house. So I got the 40th anniversary edition of Wrath of Khan, which is kind of cool. There's a lot of cool stuff on it from the people who are still living. All right, hey William, happy April Fool's Day. In my opinion, I love the 2 nights of WrestleMania if the storyline fits, and I really enjoyed night 1, and I'm looking forward to night 2. Like I said, this has definitely been the one. If there was ever going to be a case for there being a 2-night WrestleMania, this was it, because it was a solid card with some weak matches, some of them, but for the most part, it flowed. Now the jury will come back in tomorrow night, because tomorrow night is where you have, let's see, because you already have you remember, you don't have your world tag team match tomorrow, because they wrestled today and they had both titles. So now they got this, in my opinion, from Wrestle Kingdom. Wrestle Kingdom is a New Japan event, and Wrestle Kingdom for a while, even though this year they split it up between different parts of the month. Wrestle Kingdom customarily did a 2-day. It would start on January 4th, and sometimes it would go over to January 5th often, but it was structured differently. So you had the G1 Climax winner that would face the winner, or who would face who was ever the champion at that time. And you would have somebody else that would have another match on night 2. So that champion would be the main event on both night. So when it was I remember one year it was a Bushi, he beat Naito. He beat Naito and retained his titles. And then Jay White had won another tournament and challenged him on the other night. And you would have the same people wrestling. So you would have a tag team champion having two defenses on the second day because they had two different tournaments that would lead up to. So it was structured to flow differently. WrestleMania, they did it, and then they did it because of the pandemic and all that. But this year would be the strongest year if you were going to make that case. But the last couple of times they've done it, no. So night two is Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Natalya, Shotzi, Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler, and Chelsea Green, and Sonya Deville. And that's a four-way tag team match. That's not a WrestleMania match. All right, that's a good Raw match. That's a good other pay-per-view match. I don't need that on I don't think it raises to the intensity level that, even if it's a great match, there's a difference between something being a great match and it being on your major thing, to spread it across two nights. But all right, Gunther versus Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre. It's an Intercontinental match. That has to be there. Edge versus Damon Finn Balor. This is going to be a Hell in a Cell match. I know they've done a good job in building up this feud. Arguable whether it should be on WrestleMania. Because usually it used to be WrestleMania, you had 6 or 7 matches. This one's a lot. Brock Lesnar versus Omos. No. That's a Raw match. All right. That's an Extreme Rules match. All right. That's not a WrestleMania match. Now, Bianca Belair versus Asuka. Yes, that's a WrestleMania match. That's a strong one. And then obviously Roman Reigns. So if we were ever going to there are 14 matches on this total card for the 2 days. All right, the Street Profits match could have done without that one. Seth Rollins and Logan Paul, even though I found it entertaining, could have gone with that one on a WrestleMania. The Trish Stratus Becky Lynch match, Damage Control match, could have done with that one on WrestleMania. Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio, good match, good build up, but once again, it's WrestleMania. And so right there, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 5 matches off of a 14-match card already that could have not been there. And then when you have the brand split, it makes it even harder because you have 2 sets of belts for the most case. So for the women's, you have 2. The men's, you didn't because it's going to be the one. But the tag team one, you have 1. But for the most part, when you had you brand split the U.S. title, you have the Intercontinental title. So yeah, it's that's another reason why I think they should unify the brand. But no, I mean this so far so good, but I'm not a big fan of the 2-night one. Next one. If you're there still, okay. In Vince's case, I don't feel bad for him because I know he has no remorse, and it's time for him to just go. Yeah, listen, the wrestling game, to be honest with you, is moved past what Vince McMahon has to offer 25 years ago. 25 years ago. If there's ever a Mount Rushmore, Vince McMahon belongs on it, possibly multiple times, but not for anything he's done since 1998. I think that, the way they've done things and handled things, especially when they were the only game in town, really, really hurt the industry in a lot of different ways. People look at WWE now and think it's the best it's ever been. No, it's not. It's not the best. I mean, you have some spikes, but it's not. Quality-wise, it's not. Booking-wise, it's not. WrestleMania will always be WrestleMania. But the wrestling, it's a quarter of the wrestling market is what remains from 1998 all the way up to now. It's been a steady decline. And to be honest with you, when they were at the top of their game, you wouldn't have never had an AEW. You would have never had New Japan having its resurgence from 2014 on. You would have never had a Ring of Honor. You would have never had an Impact. Nobody would have be able to go to work for these places, and they wouldn't have even existed. So, it's great that we no longer have a monopoly, but the overall product hasn't been watchable through and through in quite some time, even if there's some great stuff. I mean, I'll watch Raw, and there'll be a great match on Raw, but, it's a 2-3 hour show sometimes. I mean, geez, that's a tough one. So, yeah, it is time for him. McMahon's like Dan Snyder. Just let it go. Yeah, and it's time. It's time. To be honest with you, Triple H is a much better organizer. He's from a different generation. He sees the sport differently than Vince McMahon does. It's time for him to hand Vince. I don't think there's any more Vince McMahon can add to the game. I don't think he's trying to. I do agree with Mondo. I do think that they're putting their best foot forward for a buyer. I just hope it's not the Saudis. Oh, jeez. If WWE was smart, they would buy TNA Impact for the tape library. TNA won't sell it. Anthem Sports has plenty of money, and they already said they would not sell to WWE. And I'm pretty sure WWE has made offers throughout the years, but Anthem Sports has no intention of selling. So, yeah, I mean, William Alex Smith's injury was awful. Even J.J. Watt felt bad. Yeah. And like I said, the infection almost killed him. All right, next. I wish Bad Bunny had a bigger role in Bullet Train. Great movie. Hey, he's doing a Spider-Man movie. So there you go. You're going to get to see him in a lot more. Miz needs to play Johnny Cage. Why? The Marine wasn't enough for you? Next one. The Miz is good. He's just underrated. I agree 100%. I agree that he's underrated and he's underutilized. How you doing, Brian? My Star Trek sidekick. Pat's show is fun itself. Yeah, I hear it. I haven't watched it, but I mean, listen, people love him, and I don't dislike Pat McAfee. I mean, I just don't understand. And he comes out in the middle of a WrestleMania. People are like 1988 Ric Flair came out or Macho Man came out. I'm like, whoa, wow, Pat McAfee, okay. But then I went about my thing. That's what I thought. She broke her neck. Yeah, and like I said, they did that move twice. They did the first one where Michael Cole was like, woo, and then they kept replaying it. But then she did it again when she swung her into the ring post, and she did it again because that's a signature move from Rhea Ripley. And she's able to do it because her hips, her upper body and her hips, the way she snaps, she's able to safely get. She's done it to guys, too. She's able to get that person. And if you notice, she doesn't release. She doesn't release until that person's, their hips are in a certain, and she can feel it, where she can let go. So she's almost like it's really quick if you slow it down and watch it, but it's choreographed, and then that person's going with the move. It's a really, that's what I say, wrestling choreographed or not, it's such a craft, because if one person isn't on board, is not synchronized or not doing what they're supposed to do, either side, somebody could get hurt. And that's how good these women prepared for this match tonight. So, don't cut the matches. Oh, dude, you want all those matches on there? To me, I guess coming from I've seen every WrestleMania now. I have seen every single WrestleMania. And I've watched every single WrestleMania as they aired. And I've just seen the prestige in WrestleMania. It's always going to have its big names. It's always going to be WrestleMania. It's always going to sell. It's always going to be the biggest day of the year. But it used to be when you made it to WrestleMania. Remember back in the day, not everybody made it on to WrestleMania. Just because you were employed by WWE, you had 8 matches. Let's go back and look at something real quick. So right now, the average match number for the current modern day WrestleMania are 14 matches, which is, I think, too many. WrestleMania. So let's look at let's go throughout the years. Okay, WrestleMania. Oh, I cannot believe I watched this live. I'm so old. Oh my god. All right, so let's see WrestleMania. All right, so the first WrestleMania, granted, this was back in 1985. It had 9 matches, which is, if you cut the 5 that I thought needed to go, that's how many you had. You had Tino Santana beating the Executioner, King Kong Bundy beating Special Delivery Jones by pinfall. This is back a much smaller WWF too, by the way. So Special Delivery Jones today wouldn't have even made it onto this long one. Brutus Beefcake versus David Sammartino and Bruno Sammartino. This was the first one. Bruno Sammartino is a legend. So, but your main event, this is before WrestleMania became what it was Hulk Hogan, Mr. T. I remember this, going up against Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper. That was a huge deal. Now, if you go to WrestleMania 2, all right, you go to WrestleMania 2, once again, you got 9, you had, okay, this is when it took place in 3 different spots. This is a year it took place in Nassau Coliseum. I forgot they did this. Rosemont Horizon in Los Angeles Sports Arena where the Clippers used to play. And you had 4 matches. Some of those, not all of those matches made it onto the pay-per-view, though. So you had 12 total matches, but it was 4 matches for each place. So you had to make it worth it for everybody each venue. But that was a rare instance. Now WrestleMania 3 was where things kicked off. WrestleMania 3 is where WrestleMania became WrestleMania. That was at the Pontiac Silverdome. That was a Ricky Steamboat Macho Man match. Hulk Hogan body slamming 500-pound Andre the Giant. All right, so how many matches were on WrestleMania 3? Okay, so this is when it gets kind of crazy. So these had 12, but once again, I don't remember every one of them making it onto the pay-per-view. But you had 12 matches, but even still, it's on one day. Now, keep in mind, look at the average time of the matches you're watching. Was you're watching a 14 match pay-per-view, which is what you have now, was a lot longer. Even though these guys had 12 matches, the average match, the only match that went double digits was the Ricky Steamboat Randy Savage match, which is a legendary match. That was 14 minutes and 35 seconds. Then one of the most legendary matches in the world. That's how long. And then 12 minutes and 1 second for the Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. Every other match, one of the matches is 3 minutes and 25 seconds. So even though they had much more volume, they had 2 less matches, the matches were shorter. And you generally fit them into a 3 or 4 hour pay-per-view. This one was 5 hours just for one night. So, yeah, I don't know, man. Next one. Long range are good once in a while, but it can't keep going one side. Like Triple H and The Rock's rival in 2000 was special because they went back and forth instead of one person just winning. Yeah, and the way that the Ricky Steamboat, Ric Flair situation where they traded the belt back and forth. Rock and Roll Express versus Midnight Express 5 times within like a year or so. I mean, it was it was the quest to get the title was as important as the title was. And Roman Reigns just got to the point where it's like, dude, 700 days. I mean, Okada was different. Okada was different because they were using Okada to build a global brand, and they didn't want to take the title off of him. But even Okada, it wasn't. I mean, he had a dominant reign, but he almost lost that belt a couple of different times. And it was a different time for New Japan because New Japan wasn't seen around the world like it is now. That was back in 18. But yeah, I agree. I need the title to mean something to more people than just 1 or 2 guys. All right, next one. Gotcha. Orton lives about 10 miles from me. Came into a Walmart I worked at a few times and kept missing him. Heard he's a super nice. I heard he's a really great guy. A lot of those second and third generation guys are really nice, having come up through the business. All right, next one. Universal better buy. I just don't understand how they could risk losing all of that. WWE is big business. It's on their USA channel. That's a Universal network. And you have Peacock. And like I said, I gotta think that a good portion, not all of it, but a very good portion of the driving force of Peacock is having that WWE library and having these pay-per-views on. You have the biggest pay-per-view of the year on your thing for 2 days. If you don't buy it, you give up control over that. And I think it might be worth overpaying. Now, WWE is talking like $4 billion to $7 billion. They're not getting that much. There's no way in hell. Somebody had an April Fool's joke where WWE was selling to Tony Khan for $10 billion. First of all, you're not. WWE is a revenue machine, but let's think of the worst. Tony Khan owns a NFL team. All right. WWE, even under the worst circumstances, is not going to generate more than an NFL team because it's not just the ticket sales, it's not just the TV ratings, it's revenue sharing that makes it worth more. It's the revenue sharing amongst the ads. So when you see those Miller Lite and all those Super Bowl commercials, all that money that gets split up evenly. Even if your team is 0-16 and the worst team in the league and doesn't sell any tickets, they still get millions on top of millions on top of millions, hundreds of millions because of the revenue sharing. Most teams are not. If you look at the worst teams in the world, even when Detroit was bad, people were going out in the snow to watch that. So you're not gonna. I can't believe that any wrestling federation, by the way, even WWE is going to be worth $6 or $7 billion. There's no way. And I would, and I knew it was the April Fool's joke because they said 10 billion. No way. That's 2 NFL teams. That's over 2 strong revenue generating. And Tony Khan, his family owns the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are profitable, and so they're going to know the difference between the value. Even with that library, I mean, no way, because there's no way you'd be able to make that back. Just look at what WWE generates on an annual basis. It doesn't, no way. 4 billion, 3 billion, 4 billion at the most. At best, I think it would equal the NFL team, but it shouldn't surpass it. That's crazy, man. All right, 1984, the year I was born. I turned 40 next year. No time to move up. Yeah. Megadeth sucks. You know what, Music Man? Stella, let's go ahead and say bye to Music Man. No, I'm just kidding. Everybody's got their opinion. Megadeth does not suck, but it's okay, Music Man. I heard he was a transphobic. What the hell? Are we talking about Rick Steiner or Dave Mustaine? I've heard some stuff about. I heard about that, and I do not condone that. I mean, the music is the music. But here's the thing, though. Dave Mustaine will say some crazy shit in an interview, and he'll speak his mind. What Rick Steiner did this weekend was reprehensible. And he was trying to be hurtful to a particular person. I don't have every detail because some of the stuff is still coming out, but it was enough for WrestleCon to say one of their top guys that they had paid to be there, flew out, and gave a big peg. We don't want you here. We don't want you around. You don't hear that often. Wrestling can be a pretty saucy game sometimes when two people you do have confrontations. You don't often hear somebody who's at a high status, and Rick and Scott Steiner, the Steiner brothers are legends. You want them at your show. It had to be pretty egregious for them to say, get out and don't come back. But Dave Mustaine saying some crazy shit during an interview, and Rick Steiner, what it sounds like, what I'm reading, targeted. And, you don't have to do that. Dave Mustaine has his opinion, that's great. But if he would have said, you know what, say if I was gay, and Dave Mustaine's like, I'm old-fashioned, I don't agree with the homosexual lifestyle, and I say, yeah, I'm a gay guy. Now, if he says, William, you're a scum of the earth. What you practice in is filth. You're non-human, all that. When he directly targets somebody, that's different than him giving an honest opinion. When asked a question, I think it's different. So, he's actually, he is telling real estate, and I think he's on the teachers. But like I said, I unless I'm missing something on Rick Steiner's history, I didn't expect this from him. I've always heard he was a nice guy. And I don't know what triggered him to say the things he said. All right, next one. Oh my God, I love vinyls. About 12 myself. Yeah, vinyls are coming back, man. Vinyls are coming back along with Borders. Borders, no, they're not. But Borders and Tower Records need to come back. I put those in the thumbnail because you guys always hear me say there is something to be said about creating an atmosphere for things. I can sell anything on this wall. It's just an item. It's a piece of paper with some staples in it. I can sell a DVD. I can sell a Blu-ray. I can sell items. That's not entirely what I'm here to do. We all sell stuff. What kind of environment are you making? Because there's other stores in town that sell the same stuff I do. Some of them are much more prettier than I am. Some of them are glossier than I am. And, some of them are bigger and better than I am. But from the customer's point of view, it's the connection that person makes with the guy behind the counter. Everybody is going to make a different connection to that customer. Some of the customers shop at multiple places, and they go to each of these places for what that atmosphere that person behind that counter provides for them. So it's not just an item thing for me. And that's what places like Borders and places like Tower Records and places like the vinyl places like that, the record stores, the used book stores, those places created an environment. We all sell books, all right? That person doesn't have an exclusive book that's never going to be sold anywhere else. A lot of people have the same stuff. What type of environment are they creating? everybody sells coffee. But what kind of environment is Starbucks giving you versus the mom and pop place that, has been doing it for 20, 30 years? Neither one of them are bad, but they're different. All right. And those environments breed places for people to meet under different circumstances, to try new things. There's a lot. When we had WoW or Tower Records, which was a combined store, and you could go in there and listen, like Virgin Megastore and some of these places. Before we had all these other things where you could just pick and choose your music, you would give things a try because the little headphones were sitting there and you'd sample the music and it would play a couple seconds for you and you might buy something that you would not have come in to buy. Same thing with a book. You know what? Yeah, you could just go to the magazine rack and get Fangora, but you know what? That store is all around you. Well, maybe you'll stop at the horror section. Maybe you'll go sit at the little coffee shop that was in Borders and see a bunch of guys playing Magic the Gathering. And guess what? There's a conversation to be had right there. Or maybe you'll sit down and you'll see the magazine that they bought. They bought Starlog or something back in the day. And being a science fiction geek right there, you automatically felt an instant brotherhood of the guy sitting across the table from you. All right. And you had to take that risk and say, hey, hi, how are you doing? I see, these are the kind of things that places like all these places did. The internet, this has become, the weapon of choice. We can click in and out of everything. I don't know if that's good. If you see something on the screen for a couple of seconds, it doesn't appeal to you in the first 10 seconds, click, it's gone. At a bookstore, you flip through it, you look through it, you have it in your hand. It's just a different thing. And I'm not swearing down the internet. I just think that there's an imbalance to where there's just too much of our atmosphere that has been stripped away. I think the internet and all these other things can be used in a way that, breathes life into that instead of takes it away. When you buy a book online, it is just an item. When you buy a comic book online, it is just an item. You never get to talk to that dealer. There's so much that I learned about this business and about science fiction in general, not just from the dealer who took time out to answer my questions while I was standing in front of them, but from the other people that would hear those same conversations. So I put those in the thumbnail and I will persist till it happens again. We need to come full circle with the vinyl. Especially, I'm glad to see vinyl is being brought back for people because a lot of people's generations didn't have this. Vinyl to them is like, it's a relic, but they're still going after it. There's enough people that have a newfound appreciation that there are vinyl places opening back up. And like Mondo said, we have Zia, and Zia is great. Zia is one of those places, but there used to be many of those places. So I hope that comes back again. I like meeting people. Meeting people online is cool, but I'm pretty sure, if we got the chance, some of you guys have met me in person. Silent Scotty's been out here. I met RJ's been out here. Some of our customers that have come through who may not pop up in the chat, they do watch the show and they see it. It's cool to meet people, to show them around. I've given you guys a tour of my store a couple of times. Just imagine if you were able to, to be here. But you each and every one of you have places like that in your neighborhood. So if I can't get the Borders back, if I can't get the Tower Records back, at least I can hope and advocate that these places that are around right now, the small bookstores, the medium-sized bookstores, the pizza joints, the small comic book stores, the record stores, VHS places are coming back now because it's a valuable thing. The vintage clothing store, the secondhand dealer store, the antique shop. Make time to go out to those places. Because it sucks when you hear a place has gone out of business, some place that's really kick-ass, really innovative, but they just couldn't get the people to come out because people are like, well, I don't want to do the work to go out and, visit these places when I can just order it online. Like I said, we are willfully sapping out the energy that makes these things cool sometimes. So I put that in the thumbnail. And like I said, when I was around when the Blockbusters went out of business. Now there was a different business model, and Blockbuster made a lot of different mistakes, but the genre in general was some place you went to Friday night, and we were discussing this a couple weeks ago when we bought the Lone Blockbuster. You went in there, and it was a gathering of people on a Friday night, and it was cool. The libraries are kind of baked into it, so you're not going to get rid of those. But public libraries, used to be places that you went. Hey, there's still people that go to there now because they don't have the internet. I know people who go to the libraries just so they can use the internet. So I hope things come around again. I'm glad to hear records are coming back. I want to see bookstores come back. Not Barnes and Nobles. No knock against Barnes and Noble, but that's Barnes and Nobles is as close to an online store and impersonal as possible. Borders had a feel. I don't know if you guys had Borders where you're at, but Borders had a feel. Borders had a feel about it. You can smell the coffee throughout there. Like I said, it was like you cannot purchase an atmosphere. That just has to be there. So I hope that anybody that's out there that's thinking about starting a business, starting anything like this, just do it. I mean, mitigate your circumstances, and but do what you need to do to get everything set up right so you don't go under immediately. But you know what? We need more people that are willing to take the risk to recreate these atmospheres. Otherwise, it's just going to come down to this. And I don't know if that's the way I want to go through the next half century of life. All right, next. AJ Styles is injured. He has a high ankle break. All right, next one. Steve Carmichael, but I'm a Bears fan. As far as the it's ICP, yeah. It's not Carmichael. Oh, ICP actually put on a wrestling match that was actually a tag team match back in the day. They were better than they should be, but then I found out that they actually had wrestling backgrounds too. All right, next. Respect to the Paul brothers, but I can't stand them, which is why I guess they're paying their hero. Yeah. Like I said, I have to respect the work that they put in. I mean, like I said, wrestling is no joke, and he's put in the work to be a viable wrestler. All right, next. Opus is great. Is that a band? William, check out Amarth other we okay. I'll have to email myself about that. Visigoth. I've heard of Visigoth. All right. All right. Let's go back to this. All right. Ready to Rumble came out when I was like 16. I loved it. I'm 39 now. I still love it. It was goofy. Didn't have Oliver Platt in it and all that. I mean, it was like I said, there really aren't I'm sorry. And I know this is coming from a wrestling nerd. There really aren't very good wrestling movies. They're just pretty much all bad. They're fun as hell, and you don't expect because they're usually using wrestlers. But like Mickey Rourke was an actor playing a wrestler, and that's why that movie was such a high quality one. But they're all fun. They're all fun. CTE is fucked. Yeah. Next. We don't need another Nick Gage or Diversity Arquette match. We had glad they're both doing better. Yeah, David Arquette was the actual world champion one time. That's how bad the booking was. All right, next one. Yeah, I'm tired of that. Being the tubes, like everybody's using that gimmick. And by the way, getting that shit in your eyes, when light, you see when those light bulbs break, they explode and they have that fine dust. That stuff gets in you. You don't want to be around that stuff, especially when somebody else has to get in the ring. That stuff gets into your skin. Yep. All right. Let's see. Where are we at? How you doing, Spider-Man? I'm just mulling through some of the comments here. I'm flying solo, by the way, because Stade is feeling under the weather. So, question, William: which two teams do you feel are coming out of the East and Western Conference to face off against each other in the NBA Finals? Milwaukee from the East. I don't think Boston. I know Boston beat them by 40 the other night, but in this best of 7 game series, I'm not going against the Greek Freak. I don't think Boston has the type of dynamic size they need to be able to stop Milwaukee in a 7 game series. So I'm going to pick Milwaukee, and I don't know who the hell is coming out of the West. Everybody that makes the from 7th, 8th seed up can get to the finals because this is the weakest year the West has been. Now, I'm going to be biased, but I'll let you know if my Lakers ended up playing in the play-in tournament, I think they'll beat the hell out of whoever they play because a healthy Laker team is not going to lose to those teams. Now, the very next, I'm going to give you an example of just how wide open this is. The next team that they would face would be the number 1 seed, and that would be the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets are a horrible matchup against the Lakers. If a couple of years ago, one of the main reasons why the Lakers won the title was because they were able to contain Jokic. Jokic is their center. Anthony Davis is our center. All right. They're not going to have Jokic guard Anthony Davis. He will get in foul trouble, and he is their offense. They will not win without him. The problem with that is that means other forwards, small forwards and power forwards, have to come over and help out with Anthony Davis. That's a huge problem because there's a guy that you guys may have heard of that plays the forward position by the name of LeBron James, who, if he's left by one of those guys, has now got a one-on-one matchup with a much smaller guy because they don't have an answer because Davis can defend Jokic. Jokic can't defend Davis. That's just plain fact. So that means you were going down the line in size. So smaller people are going to either have to leave their man to go defend somebody else, and that's going to leave either AD or LeBron James with a one-on-one with a guard. And that's how they got beat last time. So even though the Denver Nuggets have the best record in the West, it's about matchups now. They do not. There's certain matchups that they would get blown away in. The next team would be Phoenix. Phoenix is a big threat, but Kevin Durant's not durable enough, and he's easily worn down in the playoffs. It's been a while since he's even been back to the finals. And remember, the last time he was there, he got severely injured. I don't trust Kevin Durant's health. Even if Kevin Durant is there, the cog that would run that team is Chris Paul. Chris Paul's 38. And I watch enough Phoenix Suns games to see as time goes on, Chris Paul's legs are not under him. And he's going to be guarding people like Russell or other people like that. I think that's a bad matchup for them, and they're like the number 3 seed. Sacramento, I just don't think Sacramento has a side. So all the top tier teams have problems. The Clippers, Paul George is probably going to miss the first round of the playoffs with a leg injury, and even if he comes back, he's not going to be 100%. Without them, they're not winning. They lost today to New Orleans. So, and who knows where they'll finish. So I don't know who's going to come out of the West. I think Milwaukee's going to come out of the East, though. All right, next one. Yes. That's Mondo's channel. I meant to put it in the chat. Yeah, he's got a pretty good podcast. Next one. Kelvin time on this. Not necessarily. I would ban extending it because I think it's done what it needed to do. I think anything beyond sealing up that universe and resolving it and getting back to the prime would be overstating the welcome. It would become a gimmick. I don't think they want to do that, especially now with the Star Trek universe being healed as much as it's ever going to be. All right, next one. Question from JR Server. Do you think there's anything that can be read or inferred from Ben Affleck saying he's absolutely not direct a movie in Gunn's DCU and his current enthusiastic comments about The Flash? Yeah. If The Flash, let's say The Flash, it has the potential to make $1 billion. Let's say The Flash makes $1 billion. All right, so you have a decision you have to make. Do you go forward with James Gunn's plan, or do you follow the money? Or a third option of exploiting the Elseworlds until there's no money left to do it in. And in that situation, you have an Academy Award filmmaker saying, I want to do a Batman movie, or I want to do a Batman film, or play Batman again. You're not going to say no to that. All right? Not Zaslav. Not what, his priority is in Warner Brothers Studio, not just with DC Films, is to bring back the high-end filmmakers that the previous regime chased away. So he's got one in Ben Affleck. And at that Academy Award top-tier talent comes and you say, I got a plan, but I don't want to do it in this. And that, by the way, Ben Affleck won't be the only one that has that. There are going to be people who might want to do their own versions of these superhero movies that don't want to be part of a shared universe. That's what the advantage that DC has that Marvel does not have. And Zaslav is if where Nolan were to come back, or or Spielberg. I'm just throwing names out there, but Affleck's the one you have now. But if you get people of that level that come to you with a plan and say, we want to do this, but my thing doesn't fit with that thing, you only a fanboy would say no. All right. A fanboy is going to say, no, it's going to be too confusing. Can't do that. Somebody running a studio is going to be like, you're Ben Affleck. What do you need from us? And that's where the Elseworld thing comes along. And that, I think, if they embrace that, that allows James Gunn to experiment with things and not, because some of his stuff isn't going to work right out of the chute. All right. It's just not going to. He'll have to make adjustments like every other director was. But y'all know what happens with the fan community when they bring a new whatever in. That's not the Superman from my childhood. Oh, my God, I need to change my diaper. So we're going to deal with 2 years of that. No matter how good Superman Legacy is, you're going to deal with the grown-ass men and women that are going to act like you took their pacifier out of their mouth. And it will be some type of uprising. And it will be 2 or 3 years down the line where you're like, wow, that was a great movie. But who knows where the DCU will be. But if you have other outlets, and like I said, with an 85-year history that DC has, you don't have a monolithic audience. Not every fanboy is the same. And I hope they don't make the mistake of what they did before 2013 to just listening to one segment of fanboys. When you have literally 80, like I said, my grandfather picked up Superman. My father picked up Justice League in the 60s. I'm third generation as far as comic. You know what? In some cases, a lot of people's third generations are still alive and around. At the very least, you have 2 generations, and not every Batman or Superman is going to fit them. And yeah, I know you can't, please everybody, but if you have a unique ability, which DC does, they created these multiverse things, and they actually use it as a actual tool to tell stories. It's as a base of the story, whereas Marvel is using it as a plot device and as a tool to promote, their consolidated. DC had coexisting universe for decades. So I think that what will happen, to answer your question, is if it'll all depend on what the Flash does. If the Flash does well, they have options. And that's why I hope that everybody who wants them, at the very least, no matter what you think you might get back out of this or get continued, at the very least, if the Flash does well, it provides options for guys like Ben Affleck to come in and say, you know what, I want to do this. And it provides cover for James Gunn. Yeah, go do your thing, but we're not going to turn down this Academy Award winner. Didn't, especially, he's got good movies coming out. Air's about to come out. I mean, this is Ben Affleck. I mean, now if it was some indie, maybe, but if it's if you think if Spielberg comes and says, I want to do Green Lantern, but not the Green Lantern you're doing necessarily. You think Steven Spielberg, one of the greatest directors of all time, in the state that Warner Brothers is, trying to get back to that prestigious point. I could see if it was 2004 and they were at the top of their game, but the Warner Brothers that's trying to rebuild their legacy with directors, that's going to be I would want to be a fly on that wall to see how that conversation goes. All right, next one. Still there, Stella? All right. Hey, thank you for the $2 super chat, Vance. How much to get married in your store next year? $1,000. No, we don't charge that much because it doesn't. I mean, as long as we don't have to negotiate that. As long as we don't have to do too much, like one time we had to literally tear down a lot of the stores, so it was a different price. But it's by the person, per person type of deal. Each situation is going to be different. So if you are, once that date gets closer, Vince, just let me know. We'll work something out. All right, thank you for the $2 super chat, though. Thank you. Question from Daniel Martin. Now, William, have you seen Air yet? No, I see Air on Tuesday. I thought, wow, we got an early screening. I thought it was pretty well done, especially Matt Damon and Sonny Vaccaro. He was great. Not sure if it's engaging enough for people not from that time period, though. Yeah, you're talking about a good 30-some-odd years, 40 years. I mean, but I think that has 2 big names in it. Jordan is still big. He's big in a different way from people who grew up with him in that time period. But Jordan, you got people that, weren't even born when Jordan was playing wearing Jordan. So they know who he is. And they know who Nike is. So I think we have 2 brand names in there that should help it out. All right, next one. Question, William. I think people underrate Charlotte. I 100% agree in terms of how strong she is because they see how athletic she is because of her cheerleading background before she came to W. Yeah, I 100% agree with you, dude. If they watch this match tonight, Rhea Ripley is a big, heavy girl. She's all muscle and she's very powerful. And when you saw the matchup tonight, you didn't see Charlotte give an inch. Charlotte was tossing her around like, same way Rhea was tossing her around. And Rhea could not credibly overpower her. And that's what even the announcers were letting you know. Charlotte's a different beast. There's a couple of women in WWE that are like a really good size and strength. Bianca Belair, who's all muscle and all power, and Rhea Ripley and Charlotte. Charlotte's build deceives people. She has a tall, slender build, but if you look at her, she's all muscle. And yeah, her athleticism and her flips and all that, and her cheerleading background, people underestimate her. But this match tonight with Rhea Ripley, she was credibly holding her own. So, but I do agree with you, Manzano. All right, next one. Question: do you think MJF is ever going to go to WWE? Since he said by the end of the day, I'm a businessman because I like to see him face off against Drew McIntyre. I'm going to go ahead and say no, but that's not a solid no. I don't think. I think MJF is one of the guys that Tony Khan won't have any problem paying a lot of money. And I think WWE would have a problem paying because they're going to have a problem with other people that are in their stable now saying this guy has came from nowhere, somewhere we consider to be an inferior federation, and he's making this type of money. And here I've been here 6-7 years. In order for them to hold on to their own star, it's going to be tough for them to pay MJF the money he's worth. Whereas AEW, he's already a top star there. He's already an established star there. He's at the top of the card there. Tony Khan can easily justify just paying him the money. And you need to pay him, even if you have to overpay. Some people, I think, if you have the money to overpay him because he's 26 years old, 25, 26 years old, he's not even near his prime yet. He's already this good. And you lock him up for the next 3 to 5 years. If you give him to another federation, you give a 31, 33-year-old MJF to another. You don't give a guy heading into his prime. And even at that point, he'll still be in his prime. You keep paying him unless he declines. But I don't think he leaves AEW. All right. And Par's drop facing Drew McIntyre goes. Of all the matchups, there's a lot of matchups that MJF is good for. I don't know if Drew McIntyre is at the top of my list, but he would be on it. All right, next one. William, have you seen Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves? Saw it today and loved it. Newbies can get it. It was fun. I sent people to it, but I did not go myself because of just business today. I've heard the same exact thing. I heard people who are not into Dungeons and Dragons, it's appealable to them, and people who are marks in the game, they loved it. So yeah, I did not go to see it, but I did see people to see it. Next one. Question, William. I believe what killed the record shops at places like Borders Bookstore is Napster and other music streaming platforms. Okay, so this has come up before, and Lars Ulrich, made this argument as well. Not necessarily. Because there was a time, especially when Napster and LimeWire and Kazaa and all these other things were around, that they had the opportunity to diversify themselves and diversify their revenue. When you have in 2000, which is when this all hit a zenith, what should have happened is what iTunes eventually did, is they should have gotten sponsors and everybody together. The record company, it was RIAA, the record association. They were the ones that were the biggest stickers about suing people and all that. They spent a lot of money in going after people when they were that genie was out of the bottle. There was a time when they could have diversified and they bought on advertisers and bought on a whole bunch of things to really make that work. And there was a time when those corporations that owned some of these places could have competed with that. and mitigated that, and it made that not such a thing, but they didn't. Because most of these artists don't even make their money off the record deals, and in some cases they make it off of live touring. That's why some of them tour 200 days a year. Even still, though, it wasn't the access to the product that you lost when somebody bought something. It was access to the atmosphere. And while let's say for argument's sake that Napster and all these and LimeWire were the case of it, the consumer robbed themselves of these things. Because you took away so many dimensions of music, including the ones you'll never get to see because you'll never be in that pool of other thoughts and stuff and other people because you just sat at your house and did it. Even if I were to agree with you and say that that Napster and all that did all that, ultimately it's going to be up to the consumer to get tired of the way things are and realize that they're missing something. Even the people who didn't have it. If you're 20, you never had a lot of these things. But I talk to people all the time that are much younger that when they come in here and they see some vintage stuff, they're like, oh, I don't remember this or remember that. But well, you're not going to remember it. It didn't blow past you on that screen. So there was a time where these innovations probably did hurt, like Amazon, everything else. But these organizations will yield to the demands of people. Eventually, Amazon's going to probably create brick and mortar stores because that's what the people are going to eventually want. So if you want these things to be around, we have to control the trends and do a little bit better, I think. Original Napster, I don't think killed anything, but it was about poor people hearing music on demand. I think it created streaming personally, which is monetized these days. Yeah, but you can control that too. You can control that because even with streaming, and even with COVID, we still have, we can still put out a movie that can make decent money. These things can coexist. The streaming world will eventually coexist with everything else that it takes from. It'll come in ebbs and flows. It's just the consumer. Even if you were to bring these back today, I were to bring Borders back immediately today with a snap of a finger and all these other places I just mentioned, the consumer has to be ready to get the hell out of their house and actually engage before it'll matter. Because the consumers is what gave streaming that power and that strength, especially when it came to music. But even still, iTunes is making billions. Pandora, all these places, even the free versions have ad tiers in them. They're making billions. So even if people have to pay a little bit, they will. But you cannot replicate vinyl. All right. And you cannot replicate camaraderie. Sitting and listening to Metallica with my headset on that I downloaded, or standing and being at a table at a concert at some gathering with a bunch of other people listening to Master of Puppets together, listening to Harvester Starro next to a guy wearing the same Metallica shirt you are, in that theme part of the record store or the tower store or whatever, with that guy as he's picking up his first one while you're on your fifth one and you gather up a conversation. So that is what the customer is going to have to feel that's missing. And we might be getting there sooner or later, who knows? But the customer will demand it. If the customer says, you know what, I don't like this anymore, I want to go out and touch and feel these items, I want to be around other people, then the industry will have to go in the direction of the customer. So hopefully that's going to happen sooner or later. I just think we'll be in a better place once it does. All right, that's factually. I keep frequenting a comic book store. If you develop a back and forth with the owner or employee, it's as opposed to clicking. Yeah, I got into a conversation where a lady came in, and she just came in walking, and we were talking about. She brought up Highlander. Instant connection. I love Highlander. I hate the sequels, but I love the show. And we were talking about that. We started talking about Doctor Who. And from one building to another, from one store to another, when you walk into another comic book store, you're going to have a different connection. That guy's going to be like, I'm a Silver Age fan. And, back in this day, and you might make that connection there. But you cannot get that from buying. I would love for you to buy from the sci-fi-center.com/shop. But if I had the choice of getting you in here, because you're going to buy a comic book from me online just by clicking a button, I am going to sell you a story when you meet me in person. I always say from the time I opened up till now, don't sell somebody an item, sell them a story. All right. The story is going to keep them with you for the rest of the time here on this planet, hopefully. An item they can get anywhere. They can get this, everything I got behind me, some other place has it. But in some other place, if you buy it from a computer, if you buy it from somewhere else, is that person going to say, you know what, you should buy this because you mentioned the fact that you like the Mutant Massacre from 1987. You heard about that somewhere else. You read about that online. You know what? And I look at what you're buying. I see you're buying King in Black, a back issue of the King in Black storyline. And you want to know more about the Venom storyline. Well, the little thing can give you some recommendations, and that's great. But I can give you the one because the computer's not going to tell you how they felt when they read the story. I read the story. So I'm conveying how I feel about the story to you. And it's a little bit different experience. And like I said, love it if you bought something from the sci-fi-center.com, but at the same time, if you come into here, I think you're going to leave with a much more rounded experience than you are if you just clicked on my logo. All right, but streaming music on a distant system isn't the same. Like I own a QLED HD XR12. Holy shit! Streaming isn't the same unless it's full HD. And like I said, some of it is equipment, but to me, it's people. I think by nature we are a people. We are a gathering species. We are gathering mammals, and I think that got highlighted during COVID when we couldn't gather, when we couldn't go out to places, when we couldn't eat, go out to a restaurant, when we couldn't go to a concert, when we couldn't commune like we did. Even the people who have grown up in the digital age had that taken away from them, and that's why I think that some of these things have the best chance to come back these days because we saw the contrast. Every generation still living on this planet saw what we are like when we don't have any access to each other. So now that pendulum might swing in a different way. At least I hope. All right, next one. It's exactly fit on me over streaming any day of the week. Yeah, I agree. It's streaming, and I'm not anti-streaming. But I just like to talk, about this as I hand it to you. Versus you streaming, you bypass all of us. And it's not about me selling more. It's about me enriching the experience. You clicking on something on the screen and me handing it to you, and then you trusting me. So when you sell somebody, everybody if there are any other comic stores that are watching this, or anybody who's ever gone in there, there's a trust relationship because you're investing your time and your money and the direction you're taking these stories in. So when I recommend you or anybody else recommends you something, that's a trust relationship. That's a human trust relationship. And it's a lot easier for you to come back and have me have something ready for you and have a real human that read it other than an algorithm that says, you bought this, now you buy that. You watch this, now you watch that. I'd rather have a conversation on that way on that than, and I don't think it's just me being old or old-fashioned. I think that is just the way we are wired. I think we've messed with our wiring is what's happened. And we've overcompensated because we have the technology. We have the means to do it one way, so we only do it that way. But the internet and online things are just a tool in the bag. It's not the bag itself. So. All right, next one. Okay, cool. I'm sure William would cook up something for you. Oh yeah. We could do something weird. Like I said, it will be an experience unlike anything you've ever had, and it'll be whatever you want it to be. So yeah. Let me know when you're ready, Vince. We'll hook you up. Question, William. Let me clarify a Star Trek question from Friday night. What I meant was you you think it would be smart for Kurtzman to create a whole new stories and a new timeline? I understood your question. It was sort of like the question that was asked before. Not right now. Not right now. Once the Kelvin storyline is resolved, I think we should spend enough time in this linear timeline that we're on right now. Now, as far as making stories in, if you're asking within different points of that same timeline, yeah, we can do that, and that will be better. But no more alternate timelines. For a while, maybe 5-6 years from now, maybe. But right now, we have a lot of good things going on in this one, and I think that the healing to this one should be paramount. It's, pun intended. I don't think right now is the time for new two. So I did understand your question. I just don't think it would. It's time. All right, it's separate from the current canon from Star Trek, so that it can attack younger fans. All right, see, but they can do that now. They can do that without doing that. I understand what you're asking, but they can do that now. Like, okay, so Starfleet Academy is aimed towards a demographic that is not 40s, 50s, and 60-year-olds. Star Trek Prodigy, which, by the way, I actually like, and that's aimed for cultivating a much younger generation so that they can get to my level. And then you have Lower Decks. So right now we have a Trek that aims towards lower demographics without having to come up with an alternate timeline. So we can still get the fans under 40, but we don't have to give them an alternate timeline. There's a lot of the demographic that's currently watching Strange New Worlds is under 40. The median demographic is 36. So right there, and that's an old style Trek show. The demographic that went for Discovery was in early 30s. So they're already doing that right now without having to branch off. I think right now we want to keep people's attention and focus on this line. Because right now you can go from a card and you can go back and have a lot of fun. You can go from TOS and go all the way to Discovery with one line. Now you'll have the Kelvin stuff. We needed that then, but right now we don't need that yet. We don't need it anymore. All right, next one. Rhea Ripley just made it into the mainstream news here in Australia. Oh, they were showing. There was a crowd of people in Australia, her hometown, that were watching it. You could see them counting to 3. So it was good. And I watched her post-match interview. She's a delightful person to watch. She's fun. She's fun as a heel and as a face. So I really like Rhea Ripley. All right, next one. Hey, Protest, how you doing? Just saw the first 2 episodes of The Last of Us. It's pretty on edge. What will happen next? It's good. Yeah, it's Last of Us has been doing, like, when I watch the show frame by frame, some of the stuff that's happening is frame by frame from the game, because I didn't watch the game before I watched the show. I didn't watch it until afterwards and watch the comparison. So HBO's got another hit on their hand. All right, next. Points for William for remembering Kazaa. Oh yeah, Kazaa. Man, because I dove headfirst into that, because I, like you explained, was broke. But here's what I did, though. I mean, I was different. I would hear these things like this, and some of the stuff you could not get. Some of the songs were so obscure that somebody had uploaded them, but they weren't widely available. But I would eventually, because the sound quality wasn't the greatest, even with Winamp, and that's another old people one. I would go out and just buy the damn thing. I would buy it now, and I would just go ahead and buy it anyway, because a lot of the stuff that you could get, on there, the sound, was different. Now, some of the stuff wasn't available. So there you go. LimeWire was a go. It took forever to download a single song on dial-up. Yeah, and like I said, we would be ripping them, and then but then they came out with the paid tier for Napster for a while. I paid for that. And I paid. I had no problems with paying for the stuff. And most of the time, I went to the record store to buy it. Like there was a System of a Down one that somebody had ripped, and it sounded like shit. But I loved the song, so I went and got the album. So, But like I said, the demand, because Napster and all these things were new, and that was actually everything else. You had high-speed internet was just coming in. I don't think people were outright evil villain thievery. I think it was the fact that it was this new thing that you could do it and you could just keep doing it. I don't think anybody was trying to put the record industry out of our stores out of the business. But like I said, it goes back to the same thing. And then Lars Ulrich had a huge problem with this, right? I would have never gotten into Metallica if it weren't for bootleg things that got ripped. I had no means to go get it. I didn't have a job. 12, 13 years old. I didn't have a job. And there wasn't a lot of mowing lawns on base. I didn't have the means to go purchase. None of the kids around us did. One or two of them did. And that's how 8 or 9 of us got their music. Now, yeah, technically that's stealing, but at the same time, would I be the fan that ended up paying the $60 for the concert or 100 whatever, or the $20 for the t-shirt, or the one who now purchases all the stuff brand new? Can you go back to that real quick? The last one or so. I had to start somewhere, and I didn't have any money then. So you got to weigh the cause and effect. Which wrestler has the best promo skills? Right now, MJF. I'm going to say MJF has the best ones out of any company right now, because he really gets under your skin. All right, next one. You really can't control priority would be you can't. And like I said, like I said before, the genie is out of the bottle. It's up to the consumer. Like HBO knows that hundreds of millions of people are pirating the hell out of Game of Thrones. But it didn't hurt because the majority of us were not. All right. So you gotta, pros and cons with everything. But yeah, we are in a digital age. And like I said, these guys have the opportunity to monetize this stuff and still create their own environment. And they don't. They just get paranoid. Oh, they're stealing from us. I'm like, all right, so you're not going to catch. It's like the bootleggers. The reason why we have NASCAR is because bootleggers had souped up cars to outrun the old pedestrian, the cars that the police forces had and the sheriffs and county. They could just get in the open roads and blow them away. So the record industry and the bands are not going to stop. They're not going to catch that Pontiac. What they can do is create a desirable situation that makes me desire what they are selling and what they can give me more than what the bootlegger's getting me. You know, if you can buy a legal moonshine in Kentucky that's like less dangerous and it won't kill you, you don't have to be a bootlegger. You know, even though some people prefer it, the majority of people that became because of prohibition. Once you had the option of liquor again, people drank the liquor that was not poorly made. It's the same thing. If the record industry and the bands would have created an environment that gave everybody a better option and monetized it that way, they would have been ahead of the game. All right. Thank you for the super chat, that dude Vince. This is why a lot of us hate Metallica after Napster. And at the time, I remember when this was going down. I understood what Lars Ulrich's point was. I think how he went about it and how the recording industry went about it was devastating to them, and they left a lot of money on the table, is all I'm saying. But thank you for the support, Vince. All right, next one. Henry Cavill was in the running for the Highlander remake. I still think he is. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, this is where I'm popping up on screen. Just so you know, I looked into it last week after everyone in the chat was like, "Oh, he got booted from Highlander." No, it's still listed on his IMDb. Please check your sources, people. Meaning more official, and check for 2 or more or 3 stories that say the same, and not just BS, clickbait.
Yeah.
Things, because I'm just like, I haven't heard anything, and I'm a big Henry Cavill fan.
Yeah, and we've done whole streams about some of these sources. So yeah, personally, I like Cavill. I love Cavill.
Yeah, he wants to do it. I mean, with The Witcher off his plate, he has all this time to do all this stuff. He's still in shape. He loves sword fighting. There's no reason why he can't do Highlander and all the other things that are on his plate.
Yeah, if it's there, I'm very sketchy about Highlander, because once again, we're talking about a movie that is encrusted and embedded in the 80s culture, and trying to relive that now. See, if we didn't have Game of Thrones and we didn't have all these other things that we've been watching since Highlander first premiered, Highlander was special. But now it's like, I don't know. And like I said, that soundtrack, there is no Queen unless you're going to redo Queen.
Yeah, it's going to be plain and simply a different animal. We're not going to have a great band behind the movie, driving the music, which was a big part of that initial film. That was totally just a stroke of luck, and everything aligned for that movie. But I don't know.
I'll give it a shot, just like The Crow.
Yeah, no, I'll watch it. I'm definitely gonna go watch it. But I don't know. Lightning doesn't strike twice usually. Not in these cases.
Yeah, because I want to say it here about The Crow, and I'm not wishing The Crow is going to bomb.
Exactly. I mean,
I think
I love the Skarsgård guy. You know,
think
I,
The Crow's
I
gonna
I wish it the best, but I don't know.
that
You know.
soundtrack. I always, once again, you constantly, consistently hear me say atmosphere.
Yes.
Atmosphere over everything, no matter what we're talking about, whether it's wrestling, comic books, pop culture. You always hear the word. If you did like some kind of thing where it scanned how many times I said atmosphere, it is important. It is important. It is not. The atmosphere is the difference between
Oh yeah.
something selling or not, because
I
how
mean,
you feel.
when I first moved to LA, Virgin Megastore and Tower Records were still there up on Sunset Boulevard. On my days off, on a Saturday or Sunday, I would walk up there, which was a good 3-4 mile walk, and to hit both stores just to hear what was new. And I miss it. And it's true. You're not, you're like, oh, cool album cover. Let me go look at this or give it a listen if the line isn't too long.
The album
You know,
covers, man, album
things
covers.
like that.
I don't know, you dude. I bought Iron Maiden
Mhm.
album. I didn't even know what Iron Maiden was or what they were sounding like.
Exactly.
They had a kick-ass cover. I forgot. I think it was Somewhere in Time. I
Mhm.
picked up. I'm like, and all their covers are like that. Then I listened to the music. But you can recreate anything you want to. You can remake anything you want to, but you have to be careful because the atmosphere, it's not. That's why Top Gun didn't recreate an atmosphere. They continued one. Now, if you're talking about remakes and things like that, the atmosphere is different. It's how you feel. That's
Yeah.
why certain things like certain Supermen resonate with people where certain ones don't, to a detriment, because it's not the character, it's how they feel. It's the time and the place, who you were with. Everything
Yeah.
about what was going on when you bought that movie ticket is as important to that IP as anything else. And if you can't replicate that or fill the void that creates, you could find yourself in trouble. And The Crow is one of those very few movies where everything went right and one thing went horribly wrong, as far as the death of Brandon Lee, which was a delay happened last month, 30 years ago. But the music, the time, alternative music was at its height, and that
Yeah.
we went song by song. So when it comes to and we also have to remember Highlander seriously didn't make any money when it first came out. Now
No.
people
It was technically a failure at the box office.
yeah, but within years of its failure, people were buying it on VHS. People were renting it. It was one of the most rented VHSs of 1987. Also, the Kind of Magic, which was the soundtrack, which was
Oh yeah.
the Queen album.
Mhm.
And guess what? 4 years later, 4 years, actually no, 6 years later, 6 years after that movie bombed, we get a TV series that
Yeah.
lasted 6 seasons.
Yeah, I mean that's when when it goes to home video, everyone watches it saying, "Hey, this isn't bad at all," and hey, Queen's doing the soundtrack. I mean, it gained momentum, and that's how you got the series, and
Yeah.
still the interest in the other movies, which were not that great, but
Horrible.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's what I mean. And that's why it's the importance of having borders in my thumbnail and tower in my thumbnail. If you can attach the atmosphere in which you are purchasing and experiencing these stuff to, you can enhance it. There's no amount of equipment that you can do that can give you that. That's why people still go to concerts. You can
Yeah.
listen to Taylor Swift at your house, but
yeah.
you
I
want
mean,
to be there,
little things like borders. Darren Hayes from formerly of just the group name, just the Australian group that just went out of my head. But he was there, with his accompanist who was playing a 12-string guitar, and that was live, and that was great. The midnight book sales for Harry Potter that I went with a bunch of friends who we were all over the age of 30, by the way, and it
Yeah.
was just things to do, fun, and you could go touch, a tactile sensation of touching an actual book, CD, even vinyl.
And meeting the guy behind the
You
counter
can't beat
because you were
that.
going to see him there. You were going to see him the next time around.
Yes.
that familiarity, with a human. It's just there's so many things. That's why when people look back at the video stores, they weren't special because of the every one of them had the movie, but it was your neighborhood. It
Yeah.
was your family. It was your decision-making process, especially, to go. Everything part of that was as much a part of the movie, because guess what? You went back next week and bought a totally different movie. So it wasn't just a movie. It was the routine. It was the atmosphere. And having experienced that and having ran a business based on that, I would just want at some point in the near future for the people who have not experienced that to understand it's not a fossilized situation. We've swung too far over, and they have existed pretty much in an environment that it's just what we're doing right now, talking on a screen, clicking on a button.
Yeah. Well,
And,
yeah, a local news thing. This past week, vinyl record sales are outpacing CDs and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is really freaking cool because I just never liked records personally because I'd always get the ones with the skips, bumps, and waves in the disc. So that's why I prefer CDs also. But there is an ambient sound that can't be
Yeah.
transmitted through a CD.
and when you go in there and if it's being done right, I mean, every time I would walk into Tower or any of these places, even in Borders, because Borders had it, they would be playing a random song. Like, I'm going to give you, when I came back from deployment, or I was on our what we call R&R, so I was here for 2 weeks before I went back to the hellhole that was in the East at the time. I came into I walked into Tower Records, and I heard a song from System of a Down called "Lost in Hollywood." They were not playing that on the radio, but they would play stuff like that. You would hear it, and I would ask the guy, "What is that? I need to hear that." And he would walk me over, and I would get it. I made that connection right there.
Yeah, that's the thing I miss about music stores, of which I was working in, when I was in school and in my early 20s. We would play the whole damn album. Yeah. And everyone would be like,
buy it.
"Oh my God, yeah."
It's still like Our Lady Peace. Our Lady Peace released an album in 1997 called Clumsy. I stood at Tower Records and song by song listened to every damn one of those songs, including the title track, which I played over and over again, and walked out with that CD.
Oh, yeah.
That's just how it happened, because I wasn't going to just hang out 24/7 at the at Tower. I wanted to take that with me, and then I would walk in, it would be something else, and it was the atmosphere, it was everything that was going on. It was a coffee shop that was there. You sit down, you talk to the coffee shop people. It's just been, we need to repersonalize our society. Not saying give up the internet, of course not. That would be insane. But I'm saying there's a better balance.
It's not the same. There's something, again, the tactile, action of touching the media. There's something to it, or just seeing something else that just catches your eye. And
random. I call it random encounters.
Definitely.
You just don't know. I didn't know I was going to walk in and hear Lost in Hollywood. I didn't know I was going to walk in and hear Travis the Invisible Band, a song that I never heard because it was an indie band, but the guy behind the counter was into it, so he played it, and I bought that. I didn't know. That was a random encounter. I walked into a place with even if I had a target in mind of what I wanted, I heard and saw other things. It's like people come in here and they come in looking for a Black Panther comic books, right? But then they look around and they ask about other things, and now we started the conversation. Like I said, that conversation is the biggest sales tool any retailer is going to have. Your ability to make the connection between the item that is plastic and paper and everything else and the meaning that it means to you and it means to that customer. Now it's no longer an item. So that's what I hope for. I hope we do that. I think we're slowly getting there. Like I said, COVID. The one nice part about COVID is it showed us how bad things could be.
Yeah, because one of my jobs, I used to work at Target, and by the time when I was working there, even though I was helping take care of what we call MMB, music, movies, books, this department kept shrinking. And I'm just like, oh my God, no. Because it's like every time that they would redo the floor plan each year, that section would shrink. And I'm just like, damn it, and I'd have to, they would warn us when there was when we had to send stuff back to the labels. That meant, inventory, and it would be really sad because, a whole section of stuff wouldn't sell. Even though, I was stocking it, keeping it stocked, and bringing out all of the stuff that was needed and selling well, they decided to shrink it, even though our department was like the only profitable department of all the departments in that store for that year. It was just sad, that each year they kept shrinking it.
That's just
So,
crazy. It just went away. WinApp kicks on was that. Yeah. WinApp was the coolest damn thing for digital
mhm.
media because you could bounce out. It had so many controls and you could get the right sound and then you could save your settings. So if you wanted to make it sound like less of a studio album, you could take away the treble and the bass and it would sound like a garage. I loved WinApp. Now it's just built into everything with you highlighted one.
Oh, you wanted that? Okay, we go that one.
As an old school wrestling fan, do you think that fans overrate promo skills of Austin and The Rock just a little bit? The Rock, no. Austin, yes. The Rock had a cadence that could bring you along for whatever ride he wanted to. Austin just had a nature about him that was chaos, and that's what worked for him. All right, next one. Is Enterprise a good place to live? Well, Enterprise is basically Las Vegas. It's a pretty decent place to live. I mean, there's spots all over town that, even if you go to Summerlin or Hintertucky, where you're going to find, shitty places and shitty sections of it. So you just got to look. I mean, there are certain neighborhoods, obviously, you want to stay away from, but there are certain Paradise is where I'm sitting right now, but there's some hood places over here, but there's country club places over here within 1,000 feet of each other. So you just got to look a little bit hard. All right, next one. Which bands do you want for the Crow remake soundtrack? Many of the same bands that made the original stuff because there's no current bands right now. Okay, so there are some current bands. I would like to hear Lacuna Coil because I think they could provide that same sound. Radiohead is a modern band that I think that could do it. I still would want to hear Nine Inch Nails. Foo Fighters. Birthday Massacre. Tori Amos because she could do some of that stuff. Sarah McLachlan. So a lot of the same on the same grounds of the original, and some of those guys that are still making albums, but people along that road.
Yeah, I just don't know who would do it. And thank you, Aaron. As for some strange reason, Savage Garden wasn't coming to my mind. I remember Darren Hayes, but I couldn't remember the group name. Yeah.
I used to get them confused with Erasure because the lead singer sounds just like each other. All right, next one. Cool. Since you're talking about Tower Records, did you ever go into the other record stores in LA? Camelot, Amoeba? Yeah, but I lived in San Bernardino and they were 45 minutes away, so we had our own versions in San Bernardino County. But when I was down in LA, when we would go to our monthly trip, yeah, I would go to all those. There's places in downtown LA. If you go where Capitol Records building is, there's a whole bunch of places in that general vicinity. They're expensive as shit, but
they are. I can't afford it.
But yeah, I know what you're talking about. All right, next one. Before the last borders closed down where I lived in Miami, a few of my friends and myself went to it, and we got lucky because most of the band lived in Delray or Boca and bumped into AC/DC. Oh, wow, that's cool. That's on my bucket list. Thank you for the $5 super chat, Vince. Where is a good place to move within Vegas? Want to see if Enterprise is okay place to live. Have an old friend there. Enterprise is Piracy's king. Enterprise is a big. That's a district. Summerlin is good. North Las Vegas is good. There are some places North Las Vegas and the Aliante area are good. It's a small city, so I mean. Henderson, I would stay away from Henderson because most of your stuff is in Vegas and you're going to spend a lot of gas money. But in the west Green Valley district is where in the general vicinity where I live. So Green Valley is pretty good. Thanks for the support, Vince. All right, yeah, nice to see you again. I agree with the act of going to a physical location and purchasing media in person. It just feels like that need is less important for the last couple of generations. Yeah, and to their defense, they never were introduced to it. By the time these last couple of generations came of age, it was already gone. Now that it's coming back again, it's going to be these last couple of generations that didn't have it and didn't use it. It's going to be critical because they're the main buying median demographic that they embrace it as well if they like it. If you like physical media, let's go get it. And it doesn't matter what generation you are because this generation didn't have it. I think if they would have been exposed to it, I think they would have been as big as fans. But because of just the way things were, it just wasn't on their radar. COVID put it on their radar. Like I said, one of the but not very much good came out of COVID, obviously, but there are some things that some rivers whose courses were changed because of it as a necessity.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next one. I went to Henderson for a day during my recent trip. I'll take a suburban proximity for. Yeah, Kentucky is far away. It's far away. It's not too far away, but it's southern Nevada. It's not Las Vegas, but a lot of old people live up there because they want to get away from us crazies. All right, next one. Dan William just put together a great soundtrack with a Chrono Sequel remake. Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of music I'm listening to right now. If we were to go up and down my musical taste, I have stuff from Dixie Chicks, Mary Chapin Carpenter, which are considered country, all the way through Megadeth and Notorious B.I.G. So my musical tastes go everywhere depending on what my mood goes to. But when it comes to the Crow, those are the ones that I would I would start there. I mean, that wouldn't be the end of it, but I would start there. All right, next one.
Actually, we're pretty much caught up.
Okie dokie. This is 11:56. We've been going for 2 hours and 20 minutes. We got a little bit more. Did I cover everything on my thumbnail? All right. So yeah, we regrettably we talked about WrestleMania because that's coming up here. That's my next big event. Talked about WrestleMania.
Anthony has a question.
Oh, Anthony, of course. Go ahead and read that since he asked us both.
Stella and William, with vinyls starting to get more popular again, do you think it's a possibility that we'll have vinyls with 4K high def sound? Not
as
on
much
vinyl.
As much as possible, because remember the compression process that makes a record is a little bit different. I still think we'll have good sound. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know if the process that makes a record would affect
Music
that.
Man.
So Anthony, I don't have a real good answer for you. I'd have to ask somebody who's a vinyl
like I said, I've never been lucky with the vinyl albums. Or even 45s. I always get the ones with the skips, bumps, and jumps. That's why I went CD. Like I said, you're missing the ambient sound, but I'll have a product that's not going to fall apart on me. Although I hear over time the alloy within CDs does flake and crack, but I'll have a better go with the CD than I do with vinyl, unfortunately.
Cool. I mean, yeah. That's my question. I don't have an answer to that. That's a good question. Vince or William. IG. I only use Twitter because I connected with Enosh in the community that we exist in now. I hate Twitter with a passion.
Yes, I do too.
I use it because it is part of the world I exist in, and I can't deny its viability. But I hate the way it flows. I don't get the messages in time. A lot of time,
especially with Elon Musk messing up everything.
Yeah,
because everyone was supposed to lose their verified check marks today, so not quite, but we'll find out what happens tomorrow.
And the way that the stories list out on your timeline, and then the whole messaging thing, I just love Instagram and Facebook. Those are my two. And my Instagram and great. If you message me on my business Instagram, it will bring over to my Facebook and vice versa. So the IG's direct is the best one for me, and email. All right, you're gonna have daily shows. Right now, I've reached out when we found out that after 7 minutes, the fucking selling out. the Nerd Queens asked for people who had platforms to reach out to them. So, and I reach out to them, and I'm just waiting to hear back from you to see what my role is, anything I can do to help. But I will definitely, one way or another, have after shows. But we may be doing something with it. I just don't know what and what level. So we are waiting from the Nerd Queens to hear exactly what we'll be doing. But one way or another, we will be on the air or we will be involved. So, all right, next one. I remember first seeing William on Dave's show for a member stream. I wish back then he would stream on his own platform. And I was very hesitant. Dave had me on what he calls the beer stream. Because, by the way, Film Junkie, I know you ain't never let me on with the good silverware. I'm never getting on the vodka stream. I've accepted that. I'm okay. Never getting on. He keeps me hidden in the basement. We get the plastic silverware and the plastic plates. He never comes. He never sends me a link for the fine china show. I'm just kidding. But yeah, Dave and Chris Wong Swinson were the first people that I found when I was looking for information of why the fuck this Justice League movie was so screwed up. And they were the first people I found on YouTube to actually give me clarity of what exactly had gone on. And then Enosh was on that show. He was on the Vodka Stream show, one of the very first Vodka Stream shows I watched, I think. And then at that point, at the end of the Vodka Stream, they would all give their links and everything, and I followed Enosh because I think he was literally streaming later that night, and then I would always send in video questions to Dave, so he would play those, and then Enosh watched those, and then I would send in video questions to Enosh, and then finally Enosh just sent me a link, and I got on, and that's that the rest of the situation. I was very hesitant to do it unless I could. The main thing the main standard, and I've kept the standard a year and a half into it, is I have to keep the same discipline, decorum, and have the same conversations that I would have if you were standing right here in the store as I do online. I don't see that always happening everywhere. Obviously, without going into details, you kind of see what kind of chaos our community can cause and inflict on itself. I had to make sure before I took the dive in that I could keep that same discipline, control that conversation, and actually provide something to whatever community. And so far, so good. It's been a long time coming, man. You're doing great work, and you're growing. I think you'll need to do more on Twitter. Like, yeah, probably so. Yeah, but like I said, dude, our first streams were rough. If I wasn't blowing up the show by hitting the in broadcasting button, I'd be talking for 10 minutes. I'd be talking for 5-6 minutes, just thinking I was doing great, and find out that the sound wasn't working, or that I hadn't hit the start broadcast button. All kinds of stuff. It was rough. The sound was rough.
We all have a learning curve. Don't knock yourself.
And mine was big. So, and then what I did is I got equipment. I was just talking on a computer using the computer's mic on Enosh's. Now I have a microphone. I have lighting. I've invested in an entire computer system at the house that is strictly for that show. Next week, I'm in the process of adding things to so that when you see me over the next week, you're actually going to see a huge difference in what we look like when we stream from the house. It's actually going to be a studio atmosphere. And like I said, fitting this in, unlike not a lot of other streamers, they have the shows, but we've intertwined it into part of the business's outreach. So it's worked that way as well. But yeah, Film Junkie and Chris Wong Swinson were the first two people that I started listening to on a regular basis, and then it was a Point Action Line to this day. I mean, and Chris Wong Swinson used to have a Saturday late night show he would do, and then he just got too busy. It was one of my favorite things to listen to. He would do this, and that's where you hear. The reason why I do so many Q&As just outright sometimes, of whether we have a topic or not, is because that's how Chris Wong Swinson would do it. He would do about an hour and a half of that, and it was very cool. I love the format, so I adopted it for what we do. Film Junkie's show is I just like it because it's balanced, and it's balanced in common sense. There's so many times where people will take any bit of news and they will go into the atmosphere and burn themselves out and crash. He will look at things in a light that makes it like, even if he's not on board with it, there's a common sense and brevity to it, to where it's like we don't all need to go crazy with this information. So I think he brings a calm and balance to the community, especially being around it for so long and being there from the beginning and having the access he does. Like if he tells you that Zack Snyder didn't say some crazy stuff that you heard somewhere else, he's actually had him on the show. It's a lot more believable when you can actually ask the person. So, all right, William, we are live streaming from Showmania and having Lloyd Kaufman on. Yes, we are having Lloyd Kaufman on. We are going to have pretty much every participant that has a film in Showmania going on. We have Heidi Moore, who I was going to hope to have on tonight, but it was last minute, but we were going to bring her on. She has a movie called Dolly Deadly Kill 2. It's a sequel to her movie she made here in Vegas, and it's a trauma movie. We're going to have the director of Eating Miss Campbell. We're going to have them online, and we're going to have Lloyd Kaufman himself before the show to promote the show, and then we're going to do a live stream from Showmania with guests and everything else. So yeah, we plan to make that pretty big. I discovered this community through Enoch. He's my first love. Yeah, he was my third. Like I said, it was Chris Wong. It was I forgot which day I found. I think I may have found Chris Wong Swinson and Dave Pena on the same night. And like I said, I've been a loyal listener to Pena through and through. And like I said, even getting on the I make fun of like I've never been on the vodka stream, but the beer stream, to have a beer stream is cool. I mean, people watch that show too, and you get to talk to him, and then there's other people on there. Eric is on there, and Phil is on there sometimes because we're part of this Patreon community. And like I said, same way everywhere I go, no matter what stream you find me on, even sometimes when we get loud, when Enosh was on the screen, we'd have a disagreement. That's lightweight. That's candy coated stuff to what we've seen everywhere else. I would have that same type of argument, not even an argument, but it would get loud and crazy here. But everywhere I go, no matter which stream I'm on, Max stream, or I've been on Reyes. I mean, anywhere I go, I try to keep a consistent tone, not take it personally, and not take it from the stream. If there's something on the stream, total agreement is not a prerequisite for having a conversation. That's one of my pet peeves about this YouTube community is people shut each other out and they block each other and they do all these
things. It's like my whole thing is you can accept, you can listen to someone's idea, opinion, and whatever, but you don't have to take it in, It's like, oh, I never thought about it that way. But, the hate and the, I don't like this. If you don't think the way I do, I don't like you.
I'm going to unfollow you.
Grow up. Get out of the high chair, Yeah.
I'll give you a prime example. I bring up Matt Jarbo's channel. I listen to I don't always get to listen to it live now because we're streaming sometimes and I'm working later. But I listen to his show on the daily as much as I can. I don't agree with most of everything he brings up sometimes, but that's part of the conversation. I've always said I'm happy and grateful that there's a conversation being had. I don't have to agree with everything, and as long as you present your side of the thing with some tact and professionalism, I'm going to listen. And like I said, I don't agree with him on some of the stuff, like some of the Steiner stuff or some of the Sony stuff, some of that stuff like that. But I listen to the show through and through. And there's a lot of people whose shows I listen to that I don't agree with everything that they say, but it's being delivered to a point where I can at least mentally engage with what that person's saying. But some people are like, oh, you don't like, this black, screaming at each other. And some of the things I've seen, like the last couple of weeks, even within our tight community, it's been like, my only response was to kind of like move away a little bit and kind of like, kind of do our thing. And all I can do is do what we do, how we do it, and try to keep it like that. So, Enosh is, and like I say, Enosh was very welcoming. I felt at home on his stream. We streamed a lot. We stream every day because, like I said, it was the same thing as a conversation I would have at that record store, or I would have at that bookstore, or this store. Mm-hmm. We're having a conversation, and like I said, that is, we take for granted the ability to interact with like-minded people and unlike-minded people until things like that are taken away.
Yeah, because that's the reason why it was a call-in show, and I was asking you and Enosh questions, like which Superman comic book series should I read, and Star Wars stuff you were talking about. That was the first thing.
We and him have two drastically different views on just even like Superman and Star Wars. We both love Star Wars, but it was cool because you were able to get 2 points of views.
Exactly.
And make a judgment. That's really the best thing you could provide to a community is a different point of view. It doesn't have to be the same one, but just food for thought. I mean, like you listen to if I have something in my head, and that's what I've been thinking about all day, and I've been thinking about it a certain way. It's a gift to be able to get online and listen to somebody give a opposing point of view, so I can take that as long as they're giving it to you in a tactful, in a structured way, it's a lot easier to listen to. That's why I don't like doing the screaming. That's why I don't like doing the 10 and 5 and 20 people panels, because the conversation gets out of control sometimes.
Yeah,
I know that's what a lot of people make their money off of, but I can't communicate that way. So
yeah. Now, when you want to have a constructive conversation and, not just to BS people, to be honest, that's just me.
yeah, it just becomes a screamathon.
Yeah. And
All right.
because I'll just, Stella, do you have a favorite band, rock, that was a combination of members from other bands, like guitarists, bassists, drum leaders, and singers? I hate to say this, Anthony. Even though I worked in a music store and listened to a lot of stuff back in the day, 80s and 90s is when I was working in music stores. Unfortunately, since my health has deteriorated, I don't really listen to a lot of stuff because I'm usually in a lot of pain and can't concentrate on it. But my go-tos are U2, Queen, and Elton John, and stuff. And now Darren Hayes, because I follow him on Facebook and Instagram. And also
Is
he
he
was
asking?
a lot during the pandemic too.
Is he asking like combination of bands from like different? Okay, I see what he's.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go with Bad Company.
Oh, okay.
With Bad Company. Bad Company had Paul Rogers, Peter Grant. It had a couple of different, and then Damn Yankees.
Mm,
Damn Yankees was had Ted Nugent in it.
yeah, very good group.
So who else did it have in it? Hold on. Damn Yankees band, American Rock. They were a super group is what he's asking about. So yeah, you had members. The members were Tommy Shaw, who was from Styx. You had Jack Blades, Ted Nugent, and Michael Coley. Michael.
Oh, how could I forget? Yeah, Van Halen. Drummers.
So yeah, there you go. So yeah,
that's coming to mind right now. Like I said, I couldn't remember Savage Garden, so like,
Bad Company,
right
and Damn Yankees are the two that come to mind when it comes to super groups. What's the next one? I think I mentioned through John Campia's channel, William, we would go back and forth talking about random stuff about movies before you did your channel. Yeah, that's another one. I was listening to John Campia before the whole, or during the whole Snyder thing, but not because of that, because he would just have the movie talk. And I just love that show. There's another guy who says stuff that like literally makes me jump out of my chair sometimes. Like, are you out of your mind? But it's presented in a way that I can digest it and I can come up with my own thought. I love the John Campia show, in all its various forms. So I probably did meet there, most likely, I believe, because I was on that show all the time and I was in their chat room all the time, and then I was in their comments all the time. So that sounds about right, Anthony. All right, next one. Hey, David, how you doing? Hey, William, Lounge Enosh is from my old hometown. I found his channel because I was trying to find information on Justice League Snyder, Faith Out for Faith. How cool is that? Yeah, I think and this is the coolest thing. When we start to scream at each other and all this other stuff that happens, I always try to remind people that the camaraderie that we felt when we found each other. We literally made the active movement to find each other because we were all looking for the same information, and that's how we came together. And just remember that, that's why I want to do more stuff with the suicide prevention stuff, because that was a cause that brought us together. That was a uniting factor. And I don't think the Justice League situation or the Snyderverse should ever be a dividing factor between us. There are going to be people that disagree at different levels of it and where it is and where it may be, but that, given how we came together, that those things should never be allowed to divide us in the manner that they have, and they have, unfortunately. So yeah. Dave and Chris Wong Swinton were the getaway drugs of the cure. Yes, they were, and they were the very first people that were reporting on it that I can remember. Especially Dave. I mean, I've actually met Dave here. Dave came out to Vegas when he was here for a wedding, and I hope to meet him again when we get together in October. or September actually. So yeah, Dave was cool. Like I said, Dave has always been my go-to. The only thing that stops me from watching the vodka stream sometimes is because we're streaming. I stream. We do our Star Trek show now, so it's streamed. But I do end up watching, it later because that's the cool thing about streaming is that you can go back and watch things. So yeah, the vodka stream. And I would watch his daily shows. His daily shows are cool. And like I said, it was just when everybody was ready to jump off the cliff. Here came Film Junkie to pull us back on the cliff and give us another possibility. And he's really good at that. It's providing other possibilities or other potentials instead of just the one that someone ran with. So he's really good at that. And Chris Wong Swenson was just a really friendly face to engage. He would talk to you. There was nobody in his chats or there was nobody in his live streams that were not worthy of a response. And that's why you see me respond to just about everyone that I can. And when I'm solo and we're just doing Q&A and no topics, I do my best to try to answer everything. One night, I think a couple nights ago, there was just so many and I couldn't. But on the nights where we can regulate things, I try to make sure that every question is answered, and that's a lot of that is because of Swinson and the way he handles the show. I learned that from him. So, next one. Yes, Sam William. I love the discourse of supporting independent creators who talk about topics I'm interested in. Yeah. Like I said, it's if you're just looking for reassurance of what you're thinking, then you'll find that anywhere you look. If you're looking to see, the complete picture from other people's points of view, which will give you more. And you always should find people that have differing and varying points of views. That's what a conversation is. So that's why I listen. This got about 3 or 4 streams that I listen to that I can probably 70% of what the person is saying I'm not on board with, but it is something to consider. What they're saying is what some other people may be thinking, and those thought processes are eventually part of what eventually happens. So you just can't discount someone because you disagree with them, because their thought process is part of what will eventually become reality sometimes. So there you go. Next one. To be honest, I'd love to see a harsher hand with mods. It's a tightrope. It's a tightrope.
Yes, it is.
Our chat very rarely gets to the point where it can get crazy. There are other chats. Some of them I saw like yesterday and the day before, where the chat literally tore the show apart. Not only did it tear the show apart, it made the panelists tear each other apart. It's but a lot of it, when I've seen some of these shows, the chat is a reflection of what you allow on the show. The chat is going to be a mirror of if I'm acting like a fool and cussing at people and screaming at people and just, name calling you people, the chat is going to follow that lead. The chat is going to go with that rhythm. So
just to, in my own defense, since some people say I'm heavy-handed, if you're, like I said, we're here to hold a constructive discussion. If you're here to be a jerk, guess what I'm going to do? And yes, from my old job in legal department, I know exactly what is out of line and what starts going down the road of slander. Now, if you want to be joking around, say, sorry, I'm just joking. But when you consistently come in, and I've seen all of you for over the course of 1.5 years now, I know who's the troublemakers, okay? Yes. I know what you do, and I'm not going to allow you to do it. I respect William. I want to hear what he has to say. I don't want you, saying something stupid and making him try to force an answer out of a dumb question of which you just want to make fun of him. I do not go for that.
Fortunately,
so, if you have any problems with that, please let me know, and I will gladly block you.
Oh, no.
Well, it's either that or what I say. If you feel so strongly about these topics, go start your own stream. Go start your own channel. Go start your, hate grifting off people on your own.
But in all fairness, guys, we rarely. It's a rare occurrence with us.
Yeah, it's rare here, but
I mean, it's like 2. I think I'd have to count on my hands the time we've had to actually take harsh action is because we try like I said, if you throw a raucous party where everybody's getting drunk and snorting lines, of course you're going to have some deaths, shootings, and fights. But if you hold a party where everything is you're controlling that atmosphere, then you're going to have that kind of party too. So, what's our next one? I see Clint is in there.
I'm looking.
Traveling Wilburys.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Rhea. I won't put them on the screen because I'm not here for that.
Traveling Wilburys. I actually like that band. Everybody. I randomly discovered Enoch because he was always streaming at a great time for us Aussies to watch. Yeah, and same here. He screams at a time, and his shows are long enough to where I could get off from what I was doing and still jump on and be, I could close out the show with him. So yeah, I agree. And our Aussies, yeah, he puts them right in there, right in their lap. Yep, perfect. I remember when I saw William on the lounge, I was like, damn, this dude is wise. I was like, William the Wise, he showed me calling it. Love this community.
I still call you the Oracle every now and then.
Yeah. Thank you. Like I said, this is I feed off of the conversation, and you guys are a part of that. So thank you, Damien. All right, next one. William, you're a thought leader in space. I don't know if you realize that, but I hear about you having reservations about social media. And I remember we talked about this before. My reservations about social media is it's not just me. Wherever I go, for better or worse, I take the Sci-Fi Center with me. We're talking about a franchise that I have had since I was 17 years old in some form or fashion. And so, and I've always been weird about being in the public eye at all. That's why my names are not on my business cards. To me, the Sci-Fi Center is the face that you know me by. So it was a little bit different. Whereas this social media thing, especially with YouTube, it's William first. Whereas before, you know about me through the Sci-Fi Center solely if you meet me in person, and that is my identity. So it's a little bit weird for me to have people, like I said, I've been on the cover of a magazine, and people recognize me for that, and I'm always creeped out if I don't control the circumstances in which you met me, which is horrible because you're going to meet people no matter what. But it's a process for me getting out of that and just being able to randomly engage people that I don't know at all because that's what I want. I'm just used to being the one initiating it. But when you know me from a different spot, or like I said, there's the difference between me and any other YouTube. And like I said before, is like I said, the Sci-Fi Center is a wagon that is constantly in one hand. I can't act like a fool. I don't do that anyway, but I can't get crazy on YouTube. I can't act like I have to act like someone like that you would come in here and meet and want to join my environment in. That's why I keep that discipline there. So when it comes to social media, things can get out of control and misconstrued on social media, and I always have to be careful because it's not just me. It's an entire business that I've spent a long time building. So, all right, guys, I am gonna go ahead and wrap it at there. I think this is one of our long.
Let me scroll through everything else. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Rhea. Yeah, we're good.
All right, guys. Thank you for being the most part of this conversation. Yeah. That's how we would jump out. Yeah, we ended up being right. Eventually, we all ended up being right about that. But all right, thank you all for etiquette is important. Thank you all for being the most important part of this conversation about this whole entire YouTube experience. I have done my job. At 3 hours, I have shepherded you in from what was April Fool's Day into April 2nd. And I will join you again tomorrow for another overnighter, which will be a part of our regular deal for the time being. So stay safe. Yeah, thank you, and for myself and for Mondo too. All right, that's about it. So let me go ahead and wrap this up. Let me make sure I get the right outro because I keep hitting the 30-second thing, which is it's kind of
practice makes perfect.
Yeah. After
good night, all. Live long and prosper.
All right. See you later.